Hey, 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 hey,
What's
hey,
up?
hey. Welcome to another class.
What's up?
We got a lot going on. Yeah, we got trains in the background. We're throwing a big ass party called Amtrak, and welcome to our class again. So, anyway, we got a lot to cover again. That's going to probably be a common opening phrase because, yeah, we got a lot of shit to cover. Couple things. I'm really excited about teaching this E-Myth book. After listening to so many people in class lack understanding of business structure, then this week I met with a lot of individuals in the business world. I even met with a black organization that works with million-dollar black companies. And the lack of understanding of structure is horrible. It's pretty bad. But I mean, it's not just black folks, it's everybody, but I think it's amplified because of our roles that we have played in this society and our families, our communities. It's pretty bad, man. And so I'm excited about this E-Myth book because I think not only will it help us kind of refresh our thoughts around structure, but I think what it's going to do is those of you who have structure, it's going to help you analyze and audit your structure. Those of you who are starting a business, it's going to help you rethink the process. I think what E-Myth does so well is it helps the individual to focus on starting a business, not starting a new job. I think when you leave corporate America, all you ever known was jobs. It's really hard to move from having a job your whole life to actually starting a business. So I'm pretty excited about this, man. I'm pretty excited about this. So this week, we're shifting right into E-Myths. And when we jump into E-Myth, we're going to treat E-Myth like the podcast. I'll probably only give out one podcast a month, actual podcast. But each week we're going to listen to an hour to hour and a half of E-Myth. Now, if you want to jump ahead, jump ahead. This is one of the books where what I found with most entrepreneurs, they found it very difficult to not jump ahead. They started the book and it's like, I think Chris Foster called me the other day. He's like, yo, I'm on chapter 7 and I don't want to stop going, right? And that's a beautiful thing. So the excitement's there. But I think it's going to also move us off this. One of my other concerns about this class from the previous years of teaching is I feel like a lot of people in this class have fell in love with the knowledge, but they haven't fell in love with the actual work, right? And like, at the end of the day, you got to look at this class as preparation for actual experimenting. Experimenting is going out and do the work and engaging in the process of natural failing, right? And the practice, right? But that's where the real learning comes from. But what we found in this class is you can learn a lot of this stuff this year and forget 80% of it tomorrow if you don't practice. Because it's just, your brain is taking in so much information. Don't think because you have an emotional, exciting moment, like you're like, oh, that's so deep, or man, that's a nugget, or wow, or any of those type of responses. Don't assume that automatically 6 months from now you still have this, right? Or when you're in the midst of battle, you'll be able just to pull it up so quick. This entrepreneur stuff is not about leveling up. I think we said that 1,000 times. And what you'll find is that when you level up, you lose a lot. Because as soon as you hit that level, you think you have this false sense of, I got this. Not to realize that when you get hit in the mouth about 6 months later, you forgot how to block. And matter of fact, you probably jump straight into the windmill, right? And so if you're not practicing this art, it's like martial arts. If you're not practicing this martial art, the first time you come across competition, you're going to get smacked up. Like I know cats who were dope martial art experts in their 30s and 40s, and you probably can go up and slap them in their face in their 60s. And ain't shit they're going to do besides, I'll try to shoot you, right? Because they don't practice the art anymore. And this business stuff is, man, you guys have no idea how much your emotions can strip away your knowledge. You can become angry, upset, scared, Your fear level can go up. You can become stressed, and all of a sudden, all the things you know are gone. Absolutely gone. And so, I really want us to really dig on that you're not leveling up. There's no such thing as level up. You can take 1,000 of these classes, but if you don't make it a routine, a lifestyle, then you can take these classes. It's just like, how you say, somebody said, well, I graduated with a master's degree in sociology. Goddamn well 20 years from now, that didn't mean anything. But as an entrepreneur, you don't have the luxury of stop learning. You have to always practice it. And you have to also practice relative learning, right? I think where we go wrong as a culture, we start studying what's going on with the president, what's going on with billionaires, what's going on with international markets, and we still broke. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to first see the local opportunities to get to the bigger opportunities, right? Learn how to just even sell an apple. You can't sell a fucking apple. I don't give a shit what Trump did. I don't give a fuck what international is happening. I don't give a shit what billionaires are talking about, or what my man from Tesla, is talking about, or PayPal, or Apple, or Microsoft. Like, all that stuff is irrelevant. It's all about relative information. And matter of fact, you feel like information has become status symbols. Cats are buying books, exchanging information. But when you look at their numbers, their bank account said they have read nothing. And at the end of the day, like, that's one of the reasons I keep saying, if you want to know how much you're growing, go analyze your bank account. I really don't want to hear about all these miraculous things you're doing, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're trying to recruit me as a cheerleader. Like, I don't mind you cheering yourself on. I don't mind you getting hype. Just know that I'm going to become excited about the work, not the cheerleading stage. Not when you're like, I'm about to stage, right? And so I just want to kind of tap that. That's not in my notes today. I think another thing that's not in my notes today is I want to talk about. I've seen I read the chat list after class, and when I read the chat list after class, I notice something. I notice when sometimes people say, "I disagree." I get that. I know where you come from. But you have to break that. You have to break that. Not because of me. I got big shoulders. I'm an older man. I'm a wolf. So I don't get offended easy, right? I'm more empathic than I am offended. And I'm more concerned about the impact it's having on you than it's having on me. Because I'm going to be all right. But when you say I disagree, there's something we said last week that I want to double tap on. Was the most powerful thing we said, but I think it got lost in the shuffle, which is seek to understand before seeking to be understood. When you scream, I disagree, do you understand that the change you seek to achieve means that you will become something you cannot recognize, and some of those things you will not like? Because where you are, you learn to love who you are. You learn to love the reality that supports who you are. So a lot of times if you disagree, start off with turn it into a question before I disagree. Because when you say I disagree, you put up a wall. And when you put up a wall, you create a motion that makes it hard for it to tear down. Now, when you can't tear it, when it takes longer to tear it down, that means you're slowing your own progress down. But if you say, hey, I heard you say this, can you explain to me? Because I see it differently. But when you state that statement of, I disagree.
Also, too, is understand you're in a class, you're in a program, you're in what we call this to help entrepreneurs grow. And you specifically, every single one of us, if we ask the question is, are you exactly where you want to be in your business right now? Are you exactly where you want to be in your life? Are you exactly where you want to be? The answer is no. Then you have to understand everything you have in your life right now is a sum total of what you agree with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all the shit you agree with is what gives you the results of your life right now. So the minute you say you disagree, you're disagreeing with growth then. You're disagreeing with potential success. You're disagreeing with breaking through your past traumas, fears, limitations, poverty. You're disagreeing with that too, because if you approach that with that wall of disagreement, that means you're not allowing potential progress in, because this is game. This is not like our thoughts. This is what we put into practice. This is what works for us. So then the question is, why does that feel weird to me? I need to challenge this because I want to open it up to understand more because it don't feel good.
Yes. So challenging is what entrepreneurs do. There's nothing wrong ever with you challenging an idea. That's a great thing, right? There's nothing wrong with engaging in areas where you're like, I see it differently. That's a great thing because there's going to be times when we're wrong. That's just how it is. Like, no one's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect system teaching an imperfect system. But what we're saying is that, like, for example, if, like, I've talked to Court before and Court's talked to me before, and I'd be like, I'm not sure if I agree with that, Court, because this is what I've learned. I didn't say and when I say I'm not sure, it's because I'm open-minded to, like, what is it more you can show me that can help me see your angle? Because maybe sometimes the opposite idea is still right. Sometimes the opposite idea is still right. But what I'm trying to avoid myself from doing is tunneling around my views and my ideas and narrowing my vision. I'm trying to broaden my vision. And so I want to talk to people I often disagree with so I can expand the way I think. And it's not necessarily like say, and it doesn't mean that you have to agree with us. That's not what we're suggesting. We're saying turn it into a discussion and challenge us to validate the argument. Don't just turn it into a stopping point or a halting point, because the only person that suffers is you. You may be able to prove us wrong. You may bring some light into the conversation. We go, oh, wow, we didn't think about that before. Just do not use phrases like, I disagree. Because that puts you in a defensive role, and there's emotions that go along with that causes you to lose opportunities. So I think I want to really just kind of double tap that. So with that being said, I didn't want to get too serious too fast, but we will, this is what this class is about. We got a lot to cover today. We're going to be jumping into the podcast. And then after the podcast, we'll go straight into the Code Extraordinary Mind. This will be the last month for the Code Extraordinary Mind. We're going to summarize a lot in the next 2 weeks. So when we go through the break, we're coming back right into Ego's the Enemy. So we will be reading Ego's the Enemy, and you will be listening to E-Myth as a sub. So instead of you listen to podcasts, you listen to E-Myth, and some of you may want, like if you're in your business and you're running your business, I suggest that you get the audio version and the printed version. But if you're just starting a business, then the audio version should be fine. And if you haven't started a business, audio version also should be fine. But so there's 2 books going on at the same time. Now, after we finish E-Myth, we probably still be in Ego's the Enemy, because everybody knows that's a heavy lift for people who are suffering from not feeling like they're good enough. We're going to roll right into factfulness. And because the key thing about this class is that if you want to learn how to improve your strategy, you have to learn how to think in numbers. You have to learn how to see numbers. Especially with large populations, your brain can't really handle the idea of 350 million people or 8 billion people. Your brain just can't even imagine that. And so a lot of times, if you're moving things amongst masses of people, you have to be able to feel, see, and learn theories of numbers so you don't fall victim to mathematical fallacies. And so factfulness is going to come right on the back, but that's also going to serve almost like a podcast. And then while we're doing that, once we finish Ego's the Enemy, we'll roll into emotional agility. So we're going to be working 2 books this year, one to be more of an audio and one to be more of a study piece. And the reason for that is because, let me tell you where I'm going with this. So I listen to everybody, right? Even when I'm laughing with you, I'm listening. And what I found with the podcast culture is podcast is like a clue. It's like the balance between entertainment and education, but it's really a clue. Quite often, they don't really have a lot of time to dive really deep into a subject in a podcast. Plus, with a podcast, the conversation is rolling so fast that they'll drop a heavy nugget on you They may even dive a little bit into it and then on to the next one. Then on to the next one, right? Where a book will give you a heavy nugget and then you have to read 2 or 3 chapters to really dive into it. So you're revisiting that nugget over and over and over, and it's helping you like reshape it, reframe it, restructure it, reapply it, and then you take ownership of that idea. And so one of the reasons I want to make books more of a heavier base this year than podcasts is because it allows you to gain more ownership of the principles and strategy, right? We still will have podcasts. So when we do the break, I'll drop a podcast here or I'll drop a podcast there. But I'm going to focus on the richest podcast we have, but I'm going to focus on giving us more exposure to ideas, because one thing I know about the podcast is the books we're reading and the podcasts are so in alignment. But the thing about the books is they give you they give you a chance to process it a little deeper. And so that's the goal, is to help folks process a little deeper and enrich the dialogue even more, enrich the strategy sessions that people are having in Hope, because there's a lot of people who are getting together having strategy sessions, and I want to enrich those sessions. So that's kind of the motivation behind that. So hopefully you guys got a chance to listen to the Seth Godin podcast. It was fire. It was fire. And if those of you who didn't get a chance to listen to the Seth Godin podcast, it was fire. I ain't going to change it, straight up fire. And so, and the reason I think this one was fire, I'm a fan of Seth Godin. Mm-hmm. And what made this so, let this train go by.
Hot fire.
By the way, we're real close to moving Hope, by the way, everybody. Online, we're real close to moving Hope. Real close. But anyway, to another place, to another space, downtown Oakland. So the thing is that Seth Godin usually, he has a way of talking that maybe I would think people in my industry love. But sometimes if you're not in that industry, you don't love it. And what I felt about this interview is Seth just was like, I'm tired. I'm just going to just poof, I'm shooting from the hip. And that man has so many years in business world, from running his own businesses to growing his business to becoming a business consultant to running the #1 podcast on business development to coming back and to writing. I think he had something like 200 some odd books he's engaged in, something ridiculous amount of number. So Seth is a really dope cat. And to make a long story short, this was probably one of my favorite interviews from Seth Godin. So with that being said, let me roll right into the podcast and a couple of highlighted points. So the first one we talked about already, which was he made this point. The only way to learn is by doing things. The only way to learn is by doing things. Once again, I just want to reiterate this. This class is preparation. This group is a feedback loop and a support team. But ultimately, the only way to learn is you have to do the work. Please, please, please do not fall into this rhythm that's happening in the self-help culture of gathering more and more and more information and then using that to claim higher status because I'm more intelligent than you, because I can regurgitate famous phrases or popular trends that's happening in the self-help circle. So that's one. The second one, and this is where it got really, really sexy, and we're going to get into this a little bit later on in the year, sunk costs and emotional labor. I don't know if you guys had a chance to hear the podcast. He talked about the guy that was printing the signs. And he went up to this guy and said, hey, man, there's a flaw in your sign. And the guy's response was, well, I've already paid for them, and so I'm just going to work these signs until they have no more value. And what he said is that it's hard for the human being to deal with sunk costs. It's a business principle, but it's hard as hell. But I think some of us may frame the idea just around that sign story he told. I don't think you understand. He also mentioned, but he didn't go deep enough into this. Looking at where he also mentioned emotional labor, right? So if you decide you want to do something in business or something new or take on a new project, you got to ask yourself, am I willing to invest the emotional labor, right? And he explained what is emotional labor. Emotional labor is, you having to get up in the morning, you having to go do this, you having to you having to read when you don't want to read, you having to do things that you just mostly don't feel like doing, you having to be consistent when you don't feel like being consistent, you have to smile when you don't feel like smiling, right? What are you willing to invest this emotional labor into? A lot of times in business, we think it's just all about physical labor when there's a lot of emotional labor, right? Emotional labor is meeting new people, dealing with the fear of going for a new contract. This is all emotional labor, right? But the thing that I think that we don't want to tie sunk cost to emotional labor, because sometimes when we invest the emotional labor, we get attached to an idea and we won't let the idea go because we said, I did so much work, I put so much into this, I tried so hard. And we won't let the idea go, or we won't examine is the idea good or bad, because we're suffering from sunk cost. You go to school for something. You go to school to study something. And once you get into it, you don't like it. But you realize if you change directions, you're actually threatening sunk cost, right? You go with a nice office and buy nice furniture, and you realize it just doesn't work. But instead, you have everybody with bad backs in your office because why? You don't want to deal with sunk costs. Right? I think we don't, because if you look at costs being tied to time, attention, and money, sometimes when you invest time and you invest attention, in addition to money, sometimes you have to realize it's gone. It has no more value to the current decision you have to make moving forward. But because we can't separate the past from the present, sunk cost often feels like it's happening to us right now. And so to be able to pull those two apart, where you have the past, the mid, and the present, I think that's almost psychologically close to impossible, right? Real quick, pause. Guys, if you don't mind, just open up the windows and close the door and call it a day. Open up the window, close the doors, call it a day. All right, thank you. We had a little beeping sound. I guess one of the alarms, maybe the battery or the power, something that's beeping. And so the whole team started moving, and I realized when they move like that and everybody jumps up with urgency, then my brain starts to try to split between teaching and class and paying attention to what's going on in urgency. So it's like somebody scream fire and you try to work on something, it's really hard, right? So anyway, with sunk costs, it's so important to think about that because a lot of times we start on these projects, whether it's start a business, whether you have a business and you decide you start purchasing this equipment or you start purchasing services or purchasing insurances, and then somewhere in the process you start to realize it's not a great idea, but you'll push yourself through it because of sunk cost. And I thought that was absolutely, like I said, we'll get deeper into sunk costs throughout the year, but sunk cost is one of those things that you have to pay attention to. When one of the things he told the guys, the old you spent the money, the new you ain't spent anything. And the reality is that you're willing now to suffer moving forward because the old version of you, sunk cost is almost like trauma. It's almost like trauma, where you're so trapped by what you've done in the past, you are now defining your forward moving strategy based upon whatever happened to your past.
A lot of times you tie sunk costs also to your personal integrity. So you say, I'm a person of my word. Yeah. I'm a follow-through person. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. And you abide by that, and that's part of who you are. That's your purpose. So then when you get caught into this sunk cost trap, you're like, it's more than just the money. It's about me following through on my word and being a person of my word. But from a business decision, it's a macro. It's going macro on it and saying, is this move today the best move? And that's it. And if the answer is no, go left. If the answer is right, go right. And that's hella hard to do. It's hella hard to
especially when, sometimes some cost is also in your public status. Like you're now popular for being this person and you want to go right now and you won't take that decision to go another direction because all your reputation is now driving you in this one direction. And if you were to go this other direction, you feel like, well, I've invested all this into this personality or this popularity or this certain type of status. And you don't realize that alignment with this status is a form of sunk cost.
Hey, can I tie a string to this, to the early topic that you said?
Yeah.
About doing and reading and podcasting. Is a lot of times if some of us have jobs and then we want to be on some entrepreneurship, this job shit allows us to have a certain lifestyle. We get to live good, we get to eat. But then but what we do is lightweight, boring. Nobody gives a fuck really, and there's no social status connected to it. But when I become an entrepreneur, all I gotta do is just start some shit a little bit. I ain't gotta really perform and shit. Now I know the language.
Oh yeah.
I can hide behind this language and the fact that people see that I'm doing good, living good, driving something nice. I own a nice house.
Yeah.
They don't gotta know that it ain't for my entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
They don't know that it's from my salary, and that's sunk cost. You don't want to give up that good job.
Yeah. So it's just like, and like he said, I think in the podcast, he said, I'm willing to spend my whole life doing something, so I won't disappoint my parents. So instead of me realizing that 10 minutes of disappointment, I'd rather give up that 10 minutes of disappointment for a whole life of torment, right? And that's crazy. Because we're caught up in this idea of who we're supposed to be, what we should be doing, which way we should be going, and often we're cheating ourselves. And then we underperform because that's not really who the fuck we are, right? You're not happy, which we'll get to in a minute. He said another thing. He says, reassurance that we seek is like a warm bath. It feels great, and then you need more of it because the future is unpredictable. This whole idea of reassurance, like he was, how will I know what I need to do to make? The future is so unpredictable. You have to understand, as an entrepreneur, you will constantly be walking into a dark tunnel. It's not about always having reassurance. It's not always looking for, like, this game is about risk. It's about risk, and risk is I don't know what's next. And on top of that, you being comfortable with the failure because you took the risk because you enjoyed the journey, not because you took the risk because you was guaranteeing an outcome. Like, you can't live for guarantees. You got, this entrepreneur is about exploration, and it's about smart exploration, right? Very, very smart exploration. And it has amazing outcomes if you stay in it long enough. But sometimes the greatest plan can be derailed because it's just a black swan, bad timing. Something else happened. I was talking to Mashama earlier today, and I said, Mashama, do you realize that only reason Google is at the top is because the company that was supposed to be at the top made a slight mistake? And then there's another company that was also in the game that when Google got to the top, and there's another company that was working on the same idea, but because they were just a little bit too late, they're irrelevant. It wasn't Google's the only person thinking about it. So all three of those companies were doing excellent business. One just got there first. So once you guys understand that, you stop personalizing wins and losses and realize that's the nature of the game you're playing. This game you're playing, see, reassurance is like, think about this. When you have a job, a check comes every week. So you get this false sense of confidence of, I did the work, a check's coming, and if they fire you, it's almost devastating because your brain is almost trained to say, when I show up tomorrow, I'm going to have a job. That is almost the opposite side of the mirror for entrepreneur. Wherein for entrepreneur, we realize that we're dancing with uncertainty all the time. And when things are shifted or when things don't happen the way we plan, we have a backup plan for that plan. Right? We don't get to tell our landlords or our banks we're not going to pay mortgage. But what we do is that we understand that when that check comes in, we don't go out and start spending to invest in our status right away. We don't go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff to say I'm just as valuable as my neighbor. We instantly understand that if we don't have a certain amount of financial base, because I need to be able to invest in my ability to take a risk, right? Nor do I gamble with a house. I don't just go into business and be like, you know what, I'm gonna put everything I have on this one idea. So you're gonna put all your eggs in one basket, huh? It's just that's not how we do it. We engage in smart risk taking, right? And then, of course, later on through the year, we get deeper into the psychology of risk and how there's 3 different types of risk. But right now, I just want to stay in the space of just staying with this podcast. Next one, go ahead.
And reassurance, real quick, is that dog and wolf stuff. Dogs like to get pet. Dogs like reassurance. Good boy, good girl, good girl. Wolves will bite your hand. They don't give a fuck about reassurance. So over time, it's not that they're not affectionate to each other. They don't love on each other when the time. But when it comes to looking around for someone to reassure them, it don't happen.
Oh, let me share a story with you guys. I was downtown Oakland talking to this business owner. I won't call his name because I don't do that kind of stuff. But he had a position to buy some real estate and make some moves downtown Oakland. And he said, because he's also tied to the social justice movement, he didn't take the opportunities because he didn't want people to think that he's just in this game to make money.
Oh, God.
I said, wait. I said, I don't understand what the fuck that means. I don't understand what the fuck just came out your mouth. That's the weirdest shit I've ever heard. Because it takes money to impact people. How in the fuck are you suppressing your ability to make money or demonizing wealth, and then on the other end need money to impact people? Like, this is the stupidest shit. I literally spoke like that directly. I mean, if you talk to me personally and you're a business person, I don't know how to pamper your feelings. I just don't know how to do that. I can be nice to you, but when you say really stupid shit, I don't understand what it means. But that's because in the end, he's moving with reassurance. He's looking for somebody to say, "Oh, you're doing a good job. Oh my God, you're great." Dude, no. Just absolutely no. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not no. Next one, it says, professionals separate your hobbies from professionalism. Professionalism is you always deliver on time. You keep your promises. You stay consistent. Where a lot of people who have hobbies, those three are required. You have a hobby, no one cares if you deliver on time. If you have a hobby, also, let me add one more, you're more empathic because you have to understand the person you're trying to serve, right? Quite often, people are in business functioning as if they have a hobby. They're practicing little white lies. "Oh yeah, I'm going to see you tomorrow." You're not going to see me tomorrow. "I'll call you next week." You're not going to call nobody next week. "I take care of this for you." You're not going to do that. You might say, "Well, now, what's that got to do with business?" You mean, what's that got to do with referrals? Referrals come, see, business and you are not separate. So how you move in the community, if you're a person walking through the community telling constant white lies, why are you surprised at the end of the day no one refers your businesses? Mm-hmm. No one's referring you for promotional, even if you have a job. No one's even recommending you for higher paying jobs. Why? Because you don't keep your promise. You're inconsistent. One day you this, one day that. One day your emotions high, one day your emotions low. I don't know who the fuck's going to show up tomorrow. These are things that we commonly tolerate in our community every day, and we don't realize as a business that is not called professional. Professional means that, like he made the point, he said, if you're a surgeon and you had a bad day, your car broke down, you don't get to perform a bad job because you had a bad day. You have to deal with the emotional labor of pulling yourself together and perform at the highest level of excellence. This is so when you talk to black businesses and you say, "Hey, what happened? Why are you failing?" And bad white businesses and bad Asian business and bad everything else. But matter of fact, real side note, be careful with this social justice shit and embracing some of the media tactics. So you know how the police was raked across the coal when Trayvon Martin died or when George Floyd was murdered, right? They said all police, which is a form of Schenectady, I think it's called Schenectady, where you take actions of a small few and blame the whole. And nobody said, of course I did, you can't blame all police for that. But a lot of people, when I walk through the streets of Oakland, everybody's like, "Yeah, police officers. And then you have people like defund the police. Be careful with that shit, because that was a bad strategy. Let me tell you why it's a bad strategy. Because now they're using the same strategy on us, saying that black people and Asians are having beef in Oakland. Every black person I know are cool with the Asian community. Now, there might be some Asian here and there you don't give a shit about, but there's some black folks here and there I don't give a shit about. There's some white folks here and there I don't give a shit. There's some Latin folks here and there I may not give a shit about. But for the most part, if you go to a black circle and say, "Hey, what do you think about the Asian community?" They'd be like, "They cool. Many of us grew up with Asian communities. Many of us had close ass friends who were Asian. Many of us like go to Chinatown for. When I was a kid, my graduation, when I was sixth grade, when I was promoted from sixth grade, my father gave me $20. I got on BART, went to Chinatown, San Francisco, and had the best time of my youthful life. Right? So I rode with Asians, and like my boy said, we fucked with Bruce Lee when we was growing up. We wanted to learn everything about the Asian culture because of Bruce Lee, right? So I'm not saying we were Asian intelligent, because I'm sure there's a lot about it. Asia's a very old culture, and up to the 1700s, they were the most dominant culture in the world, right? So there's a lot we don't know, right? And sometimes we may even do a bad job of separating Vietnamese from Korean, from Chinese to Japanese, right? And that's because of lack of familiarity.
Right.
But as far as attacking older black women, Asian women, that's some sick shit.
That's some sick shit.
That's some straight up sick shit. But the same method of a person who was the dude who did it had mental health problems. And now all black people are being lumped to this black against Asian. Y'all be careful with that shit. Don't play with that type of strategy. That strategy is horrible. That us versus them, and just don't support that kind of stuff. Even if you're winning from it, don't support that kind of stuff. So back to what I was saying. If you're trying to achieve excellence, and I don't want to tie excellence to perfectionism, because you can turn excellence to perfectionism really, really fast. But one of the requirements of excellence is a customer knows what to expect and is a consistent experience. And trust me, that is close to impossible if you view your business as a hobby. The next one, uniforms. I'm going to get into this in about a month. I'm going through this process because, I'm going through this process now. We live in a .com culture. And in .com culture, everybody's wearing hoodies and t-shirts and sweatpants. That might be okay for them, based upon where they are in their business evolution. Somehow we use this word equal. We think that we're in the same equal space that they're in. So they're here, we think we're equal. Not realizing they're here and we're way down here in our evolution as far as business infrastructure. So when they were wearing suits or hats, we might be at that stage. And so we're gonna have to think about this uniform thing and reevaluate it and realize that some of the things that we're copying them are actually undermining them, but they have the infrastructure to support them. And so I'm gonna come back to this in a deeper, because I'm gonna take it way deeper and get into some marketing language around it. I'm gonna get into some layers of thoughts into it. We're going to discuss uniforms. When we say uniform is relative. So if it's blue collar work, we all know what a uniform looks like in that case. But a uniform might be what outfit best raises the trust of you or your services to the customer, right? And how do you create a certain amount of pride around the way people dress to show up. And the reason he brought up this uniform thing is because we've broken away we got into this casual culture, but now we're starting to do casual business. And we got to get back to doing professional business consistently. We got to start looking at business as structures and systems, right? Not hard work and creativity. Creativity is in there, and a little bit of hard work is involved. But it's about creating systems and structures and paying attention to customers and make sure that we have that clear alignment, right? But we kind of got to the space where we sound like that artist hippie. I want to do what I want to do, and I want people to accept it because that's who I am. Please sit your fucking ass down. Because that's cool if you don't want to make no money. But please don't turn around and say, oh my God, I'm not making money. Yeah, because you're not making sense. So, next one. Woo, up to spec. That shit's so much game. So many of us come out of school and we've been taught our whole life, get A's, get A's, get A's, get A's, get A's. And C is considered to spec. What he's trying to highlight to you is why A students who get caught into perfectionism don't do good in business. Because business is about going to spec. You can't afford being an A at all times. In multiple, not only economically, time-wise, and attention-wise. Mm-hmm. But you could design a business to spec, which is you define what would raise the value of your company to another level based upon its relationship to competition, and customer expectation, and what is that spec? Now, you can find out, oh, I could go better, but the question is, going better cost effective? Or is it raising your level higher to spec, right? Like McDonald's price is kept, McDonald's is that spec. It ain't the best burger in the world, but it meets spec. Meaning that one of the things that makes McDonald's so impressive, you can get in your car right now and drive across the United States. And you can hit this town where you're like, I'm not sure if I want to eat this food. But if you see a McDonald's, you feel comfortable because you know what to expect. You can get in the plane and fly to Jamaica. If there's a McDonald's, you go there, you know what to expect, right? They set a certain spec which sets your expectations, right? I seem like that word is tied together. But anyway, it sets your expectation. But if you don't understand spec, it's easy to get caught in perfectionism. And perfectionism is a form of spending too much time on unnecessary shit. That's not a term. I'm just saying that's what ended up happening, right? And so when you get into perfectionism, you're polishing this item so much, you're forgetting somebody needs to open the door and help the customer, right? It's almost like it slows you down. You forget you're in competition. And so you start to move slower because you're over-focusing on perfectionism, right? But once you're clear about defining your spec, then you can actually build smart systems that run at a certain pace. That shit was fire.
And you can always up-tweak your spec. You
Yes.
can always go from C minuses to C's and C pluses and B's, but the rest of your system is moving. All your plates are spinning. Instead of waiting on this one plate to spin perfectly, you got 7 other plates. So, and you can always get them spinning and go back and tweak this one. Oh, I'm gonna make this one a B. I'm gonna bring this one up. But your system is running. That's also the key, and it's hard to. It's almost counterintuitive how some of us say, well, you know, I'm a perfectionist. Let's cut that shit. Let's cut it, because being a fuck up in class for me helped me. Because it allows me to be comfortable with things not being perfect or ridicule or people looking down. Just, hey, it's good and we'll come back to it.
I mean, most of the things we enjoy is not perfect. Most of the things we enjoy are not perfect. And once you understand what a spec is, it takes a lot of pressure off of you, which gets to our next point, which is, he talked about shaming. Shaming is getting out of control. It's been sharpened and it's turned into a weapon. And it's been turned, and as a matter of fact, this is, okay, so when I tell you I don't like social justice, it's because people who are not engaging in power, don't have relationship and building infrastructure that it requires to support power, don't even understand the nature and the principles and or have the skills of power. They use shame to attack those who may have power, to only find out that if those people gain power, they don't have the responsibility to control power, right? Or we use shame, and then this is a sad thing. So we hear shame all the time. You know, the cancel culture and the shaming culture, and oh my God, you're homophobic, and oh my God, you're sexist, and oh my God, you're racist, and shame, 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 shame. But this is where it goes bad. Then we start shaming ourselves. And when you make mistakes and shame yourself, let me go back to that emotional wall. If you build an emotional wall too damn tall, you can't think. You become a horrible strategist. You have to learn to be able to mediate or control or level your emotions. And one of the things that's critical is you got to turn that shaming thing down. All it does is work to depress you. It's like beating yourself up. And we grew up in a household where we got spanked and hollered. I mean, a lot of us from this generation, you know, we grew up around that stuff, right? Or sit your ass down, or what the hell you doing, or you know you meant to do that, right? And shaming fits that language. And so at the end of the day, like, okay, have you ever went to a business meeting or in front of somebody and you just fumbled and you realized, I just wasn't me? The reason you fumbled because you shamed yourself before you got there. Or a lot of times you're doing unnecessary things to recover from self-shaming. So that shaming thing is, when I say it's horrible, shaming it serves no valuable purpose. So I wanted to double tap on the shaming thing. He said the other one, people don't want what you want. That's a simple one that no one gets.
Huge.
No one gets that one. When you open up your company and you have this great idea of what is the perfect product to sell and how things should work, the first thing you should realize that people don't want what you want. nor can you figure out what people want using rationality. Let me say that again because I think y'all think I'm playing. You cannot think about what people want based upon rationality. Let me help y'all go even further. This is something you probably never heard. The average customer doesn't even know what they want. They already made a decision of what they want before they got there, but they can't even tell you why they want it. They're not even sure how they got there, right? So how do you get in front of this? You have to learn the customer you focus on better than the customer knows himself. Mm-hmm. Meaning you got to know things about the customer the customer doesn't even see about themselves. Mm-hmm. Let me say this again. You got to know things about the customer doesn't even see about themselves. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is that the customer might like the color red, but they don't even pay attention to what color they love. You need to know that. The customer might have patterns that they fall into. They might say, what are you talking about? Like the average person, if you ask them why they do something, and if you watch them on camera, it's sometimes opposite, right? So in business, the reason you can't serve a lot of markets, especially in the beginning, is because you can't see that many people to serve them. In order to serve somebody, you got to pay attention to things they don't pay attention to. So that means that when you're focusing on customers, you got to come out of this war in your head with self.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're so busy in this conversation with ourselves, like, maybe I should. You know, I was feeling this, I felt this. He said this to me, so I felt that. And I felt, okay, guess who you don't see? Your customer in front of you.
And sometimes as entrepreneurs, we think the world likes what we like. The world will jump on whatever we jump on. But it goes back to being obsessed with our customers. If you're obsessed with the customers, you're just like what he said. You know what their favorite color is before they even. You know what they like before they like it. If you're obsessed with them. If you're obsessed with the shit you like, then you ain't gonna have a lot of customers. Being obsessed with your customers will get you to this place at all times.
Obsessed. Like your goal is to be the number one trusted advisor, number one. And number two, the other goal is to be so obsessed with your customer to the fact that you live every day to try to figure out what are they thinking about. You're reading all articles. You're paying attention to where they go for fun, where they go when they're sad, where they go, what they do when they're mad, how they sleep, everything, right? So this whole idea of really, 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 really focusing on the customer. We're going to dive deeper. I'm going to get into the psychology of why what you think a customer wants, let that go. Mm-hmm. Stop sitting in private rooms with 7 people analyzing what you think the market's going to want or what the best move is. If you don't go out and find out what that is, you don't know. And you don't necessarily have to go out and interview people. You also can listen to conversations through certain internet sources and get back data of what's popular amongst that particular segment of market that you're trying to listen to. But if you don't listen and you act without listening, you have a horribly egotistical business. We'll get to questions in a little bit when we get through with the podcast. Not too into the podcast. Keep going. Next, the internet is about chasing hacks, aphorisms, shortcuts, and our best practices. Mm-hmm. So there's this new trend now that people think the more knowledge I get, the better I'm going to become. It's not how it works, y'all. You can read every book in the world. If you don't practice, if you don't gain skill, so your practice, there's this thing called deliberate practice. That's a new term for it. Deliberate practice is that it's a deep focus practice where you start to notice subtleties of difference between the way you did it this time and the way you did it next time, right? You start paying attention to a lot of subtleties that you would have never paid attention to before, right? You have to have enough focus to be aware of that slight difference between this time way you did it this time as opposed to did it that time, right? And then also studying the difference in the impact or the number changes or what's the term I'm looking for? There's another term I'm looking for. But you're so aware of other small details. A lot of us think when we start practicing, it's like, imagine if you ever watch a professional practice, they're not just going through a crossover. They're looking at is it exactly landing at an exact point the same way every time, right? They're looking at what's the position of your legs. Is your head up? Where's your shoulders at? What's the arch of your back? That deliberate, detailed focus. Did you guys know that Gillette shaving company, every week they watch over 100 people shave? You know how long Gillette's been around? And to this day, they watch 100 people shave a week. They say because every week they learn something new. You would say, well, how could you possibly learn something new? Because they're looking at deliberate practice. Deliberate practice. Mm-hmm. It's almost like somebody told us, and I think he talked about this in this podcast, but I didn't make this one of the notes. We were told from childhood we were entitled, we're special, we're unique, we're daddy's favorite little girl, we're amazing, the world's promised to us. So we started business as if, hey, well, I arrived, and now that I arrived, you guys should be glad I'm here. And at this point, if I believe it's tight, it's just a matter of time before you realize that I was right.
I'm going to bless you with my presence.
Yeah. And that in itself is just absolutely insane. But this is all in one podcast, y'all. This podcast is full. Like, this is one of these podcasts you come back and revisit over and over and over and over to kind of audit and see how well you're moving forward. Next one, he said, he talked about Momofuku, the Momofuku restaurant, and sorting feedback. And what he said is he went to the restaurant, and he's always going in, and they would always make these custom meals for him. And this one time he went there, and the owner came out and said, we don't really serve vegetarian. And I know there's a vegetarian restaurant about 10 minutes away from here. We really are about pork, and I think that's where you should go from this point on. Now, many of y'all was like, you told a customer to go somewhere else? Because when you serve too many diverse customers, you no longer have a business. Because you have to adjust your business so much to a customer to the point that you lost consistency. Mm-hmm. There's only one. You have to segment who you're trying to serve and only pay attention to feedback from that particular segment of the market. Because if you're not trying to serve them, they may hate your product. Like, I don't know, there's a famous horror show that they show around Halloween every year. And there's a drag dude who sings.
The Rocky
horror show.
Yeah.
And that show's been running for since I was a kid. The same damn movie. They ain't changed it. Ain't no part 1, part 2, part 3, season 4, season 5, episode shit. It's the same damn actor in the same damn film. He's probably halfway dead, if not dead by now, and they still run that same movie. And it still has a following of people around the corner. And many people that's listening to me right now may say, I have never seen that shit. Because guess what? They're not talking to you. And they're comfortable with that. Ain't nobody mad. So if you see it one time finally, because you have to be at a friend's house, you're like, this shit sucks, and you write the editor a long letter, they're going to look at your profile and realize,
yeah, not for you.
Don't give a shit.
Yeah, Patti LaBelle was the same. When she came out, she made music in the black culture for black people, and in her concert, she realized all these trans people are showing up. So she's like, all right, let me do in the next concert. So she started building this unconscious trans following showing up to her. So guess what she started doing? Catering to them. Their loudness, their over the top outfits. She started wearing over the top outfits, and she started welcoming that group. And so most of her career was carried and funded by the trans community because that became her crowd. You don't fucking know sometimes. You don't know who's going to show up. So it's about who your target market is. And if she said, well, y'all not for me, then that's one thing. But she said, no, come on, let's do this. And that's what helped. That's what helped her career.
Yeah, I made mistakes numerous times where I've taken on a job I shouldn't have taken on. Let's say you take a job on, it's discounted. You know damn well that's not the kind of business you do anymore. That becomes your worst job. Now, you know why it's your worst job? It's not your worst job because you couldn't do the job. It's your worst job because the system you created is not designed for that job anymore, right? And so in the end, you're going to underwhelm that customer because you didn't build a business for them. You can actually stop your own personal growth by responding to everybody. This is why I hate Black Lives Matter. Do you guys now see the connection? Because by looking for approval from people who don't matter, that's anti-business. Mm-hmm. I only give a shit about those who matter. Okay, let me help y'all out. Let me just stay with me for a second. There's 8 billion people. 8 billion people, that means there's 8,000 million people in the world. 8,000 million people in the world. You can't, there are at least 7.5 billion people, you can't even feel the pulse of their culture. They could be mad right now, they could be in the middle of a war, they could be happy as fuck, and guess what? It has zero impact on your existence from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. Mm-hmm. You don't even, the television doesn't even show those individuals. Meaning that you are, by you buying into this idea of Black Lives Matter, you're worrying about people you don't even see. You don't even know. If you live in a small town and white folks are terrorizing you, I'm with you saying, hey, not Black Lives Matter, but I'm with you having a lot of conversation about white and black the way they do. And I'm worried, and I understand in certain cities where racism is really intense. Now, systemic racism is everywhere, and that's something that we need to be aware of. But Black Lives Matter doesn't make sense based upon moving forward. Because that's not my market. Those who are racist, it's just not my market. I met some white dudes this week, they're my market. They some cool white dudes. But some white dudes just not your fucking market. Move the fuck on. But when you start taking feedback from people who's not your market, they are actually distorting your strategy.
Yeah, hey, I got my ass kicked this past year just because of COVID, like a lot of businesses. And this past month, we redid all our pricing from front to back. We're in our second week right now of going through all our price points and deciding, do we want to charge that? Do we not? How much? And we said, you know what? Fuck that. We're going to raise our prices in these areas. And in these areas, we're going to say no. Fuck it. We're going to say no. And yeah, we need the money, but you know what? I don't want to fuck with them no more because last year was difficult enough, let alone having to deal with shit we took that we don't even need to take. And I'm sick of these customers. They ain't like the goal of they're going to become better later. Man, I've been dealing with these raggedy ass motherfuckers for 3 years in a row and they ain't become better. So what we going to do is bump our prices up beyond their comfortability so they leave us the fuck alone. That can create some space for us to serve the customers we want better. And it's hard to do in the moment when they like, hey, I got some money for you. I know you need it. It's hard to do.
Fuck your money.
But at some point, we got to be like, nah, fuck your money.
and that's my, did my mic go down something like this? Did my mic turn down something? Feels okay. Feels like my mic went down something. Anyway, so yeah, it's about knowing that also when you start to respond to those quality of customers, you're creating business bottlenecks. Business bottlenecks. A bad customer can eat up so much time and attention that it's hurting you from actually serving a large. Remember I told you, I think it was 2 years ago, I had a low-end client call me for a $2,000 job. And I was like, yeah, I take care. I'll go ahead and do that for you. I'm going to do that nice. Yeah, I'll do that for you. It was a photo shoot. I'll take care of that for you. I'm going to come off from my running my business and go ahead and do this shoot. And while I was doing a $2,000 shoot, there was a $35,000 deliverable that I totally forgot about. So I almost lost for $2,000. I almost lost $33,000 or $35,000. Guess what I did? The next day I was able to save it, but if I wasn't able to manipulate the person, I could have lost that job. And why did it happen? Because I had to go into different modes and different forms of thinking adjusted to different type of customers, right? Where when you start leveling your customers, then you can build that robust business that shows a consistency and has that level of excellence to the way it shows up. So creating this up and down way of showing up and showing up for just everybody, trying to serve everybody, you don't try to serve everybody. Like he said in that podcast, he said, I have a friend who's trying to write a book for everybody. He says, well, I can promise you right now he's going to fail. And that's true. That's why when people come to me, I want a business that's multicultural, it's going to help everybody. I always look at them like, please get out of my office. You're one of those people I shouldn't be working with. There's no such thing. Matter of fact, business is discrimination.
Absolutely.
Business is about you have to discriminate to be in business.
Absolutely.
You have to have hierarchy. You have to have friction. Somebody has to lose. You got to spack some people. This is business. This is life as it is. But in our head, it's not. We're getting so caught in the social justice make-believe rhythms that when we get into business, we're trying to make business conform to make-believe when make-believe doesn't do well in competition. Imagine watching the championship and it's down to 2 points and nobody wants to shoot because it's like, that'd be unfair, that might hurt their feelings. Sorry, LeBron, you got to cry this time, baby. You get where I'm going with this? And so my point is that we have to kind of look at this very, very different. I realize that there's a discrimination process to business. There's a weeding out of the weak, a process of elimination of the weak in your business, right? Sorry. Now, those who become eliminated could call it racist, sexist, gender sensitive, whatever they want to call it. But that's the process. And if you can't put your big boy pants on and handle those responsibilities, you can't, there's a phrase that says, when you build an organization without structure, it's called a mob. And when you create a mob, all you do is tear shit apart. If you want to build a business, it has to have structure. That's what it is. Sorry. Next. He says, okay, so serving, I guess we already hit this one. Serving everyone is not a thing. The internet is not a mass medium, but a micro medium.
Man.
You know how many times I've seen people on Facebook acting like everybody in the world gives a fuck?
They don't.
They don't realize that all these pipelines you could jump on Facebook, Instagram, email blast, Google, those are micro mediums. The chances of you reaching the whole world through the internet is close to zero. This is another reason why you want to focus on a smaller market. Because when you use this free tool called the internet to access that market, it's already placed a limitation on you. So in order for you to maximize the tool, you got to think within the context of what the tool can do. When you think mass medium, internet has still not beat brick and mortar. It still doesn't beat brick and mortar. It doesn't beat it close. Come close to it. Like he said, if you're down on a shelf, so if you're on a shelf of Walmart, you're killing it. You're killing it, right? But getting on the shelves of Walmart is a whole different way of thinking about business and responsibilities, as opposed to this casual hippie. I want to be free, be me. Oh my God, why can't I just have my own emotional space? And not understanding the emotional labor element. Next one, he says, if we can figure out how to tell ourselves a different story, oh, this is so cool. If we can figure out how to tell ourselves a different story, then we might be able to make a different level of contribution. Do you understand how cool that is? He said, if you can figure out how to tell yourself a different story, Josh, he said, if you can figure out how to tell yourself a different story, you can make a different level of contribution. Chiquina, you understand what that means? Actually, I can tell you, you about to smoke a joint. It's so deep for you. But I'm saying, let's check this out. Let me help you process this and how cold this is. Mashama lives on Outlook, which is slightly above in East Oakland, but slightly above Eastmont Mall. His neighborhood is a nice looking neighborhood, and his house is a very, very beautiful home. Mashama, and of course, y'all can imagine, if you can imagine Mashama as a cold-blooded designer, you go inside of his house, it feels like you're inside of a cold-blooded designer's home. And the other day he was doing a Zoom call, and I looked outside of his window, and it looked absolutely beautiful, right? Because I got this small snapshot behind him. I was like, damn, dude. I said, what part of East Oakland is that? He goes, East Oakland, smart ass. Anyway, so I said, no, what are you facing, smart ass? He said, I'm facing Eastmont Mall. Okay, let's say this again. It looked very, very beautiful, but he was facing Eastmont Mall. Okay, fuck what y'all heard. Eastmont Mall is rough. Okay, if y'all don't think it's rough, I dare you. It's like a challenge. This is like that. Remember Bear when they just drop him off somewhere and he had to make it back? Let me drop you off in a nice outfit in East Oakland around 8 o'clock at night and make it back here on foot. Boy, you jumping fences, you're maneuvering, you changing voices, you putting dirt on your clothes, you doing whatever the hell you have to do because East Oakland is real right now, right? But it's a mindset. East Oakland is beautiful. East Oakland is absolutely beautiful. Its location is beautiful. The people are physically beautiful, but the mindset is they don't have nothing. We ain't got. This is messed up. Our neighborhoods are fucked up. If we could just change the way we think, we're not screaming Black Lives Matter. We're building shit all over the place. You go to Johannesburg right now, guess what you're gonna find? Chinatown. Go to New York, what you gonna find? Chinatown. Go to Oakland, what you gonna find? Chinatown. Go to San Francisco. Chinatown. LA. Chinatown. I love them folks. You know what I love? That's why I say I'm not. How you gonna tell me I don't like Chinese people? What's wrong with it? I love Asian culture.
Absolutely.
What are you missing? Is that they're working on solutions. That's what I see. Solutions. I see people who are trying to build infrastructure to support their way of life, protect culture, to pass down values to their kids, to make sure they give their children opportunities to compete. Right? It's not like Chinese culture built Chinatown and they don't want to be part of the American pool. They're part of the American pool. They're part of Johannesburg pool. They're part of the Jamaican pool. But what they're trying to do is make sure as they invest in their personal culture that they give themselves the highest competitive edge. Mm-hmm. If you could just change your beliefs, with all the stuff we've been doing in Code Extraordinary Mind, you will change your contribution.
Yo, on the flip side, most of our suffering comes from stories that we tell ourselves. So we can have contribution with different stories, but also our suffering comes from our stories that we tell ourselves. Yeah. So if something happens, if we're suffering, it means I want a different result from what's occurring right now, and I'm suffering because I'm so frustrated that I'm not getting it. It hurts. But if you were to change the story around and say, damn, this is going to help me become better. I'm going to be stronger after this. Soon as I get done with this, once I learn a lesson from this, I'm going to have superpowers. It changes now you go from suffering to observation to curiosity to learning to getting through it mode. Like our stories are everything. They create everything.
Everything. The same incident can happen to you, and your response to it could be totally different. It can go from, I'm suffering to, oh, are you challenging me? This is challenging me. Right?
Boom, instantly change.
Just instantly change. All your emotions, everything just, and all of a sudden, you show up differently. You're moving differently. You're revving yourself up, as opposed to you're showing up with your head down and you're feeling it's unfair and victimized as you move forward.
Yeah.
That subtle tweak, that subtle flip of that lever, that subtle reframing, all of a sudden everything's different. Mm-hmm. And this is why it's so important. Like the stories you tell yourself, your belief system is so, because at the end of the day, if you are here today breathing, the story is fresh. If it's not fresh, you're stuck at sunk cost. If you're here breathing today, it's the beginning of a new life, not the continuation of the past. Mm-hmm. The only reason the past is being continued because the narrative you will not let go in your head. Whatever you was called in school, no matter what if you was told last week you ain't shit, you soft, you're a sellout, you stink, everything about you is whack. And let's say all that happened to be true, which is kind of really weird, but it happened to be true. Today, that reputation doesn't matter. It only matters if you believe it. And here's the thing we'll say to reinforce it. Well, this is what everybody thinks. This is what people think about me 2 years from now, 3 years from now. People don't think about you like that. Nobody gives a fuck about nobody. No. In a nation of 350 million people, ain't nobody tripping on nobody like that.
Mm-mm. And you also might say, well, nobody's going through what I'm going through. There's a book, Mankind Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl wrote it. He survived Nazi Germany concentration camp, but he was also a psychologist. And he noticed that 1 out of every 25 was going in that gas chamber or going to get killed. But he noticed a subtle difference in the stories. Most people told themselves a different story. When I get out, I got to make sure this doesn't happen again. I got to be there for my family. I got to find my kids. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like, I'm going to make sure. And then that 1 out of every 25 is like, oh my God, is it going to be me? I can't believe I'm here. This is horrible. This is terrible. This is terrible. And it was like clockwork when they lined them up, because he knew, he jotted down the notes. He knew, he could pretty much predict who was going to get picked. And they'd stand there quiet and not say nothing. And they'd be like, you, come on. Because the energy they gave off came from the stories they told themselves. And they all going through the same shit in the same spot with the same potential death approaching them. But it was the stories that kept the ones that energy different and made them get up out of there. So it don't matter, like you can't blame the circumstances or where you from. It's wherever you are, our stories got to change. And this shit is hard sometimes, but we got to tell ourselves a different story. That starts the circumstance change.
Next one, he says, can you accept the world for what it is? That one is a simple phrase, but I promise you that's going to take the longest for you to access. Because going back to what he said with the stories, a lot of times our world is so layered with these narratives, we can't even get to reality as to what it is. A lot of the pro-black movement is based upon narratives. We were kings and queens of Africa. They hate us. I don't understand why they hate us so much. And they won't let us. They stopped this, and they won't. Okay, whether some of it is true, a lot of it's too heavy in narratives. First of all, the rarity of kings and queens was so rare, it'd make your nose bleed. And usually king and queen was exploiters. Most people were just trying to survive, right? The Homo sapiens has been around 70,000 to 200,000 years. Human beings have been here more than 3 million years. So the reality is that kings and queens are very, 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 if you read human histories, very, very rare. But the way we tell the story, we act like every city had a king and queen. Every 10, 20 people were kings and queens. And we all walked around like, hey, king, how you doing, queen? How you doing, queen? And we sort of like, I got gold, you got gold, I got gold too. Oh my God. We have a fat pig, well, we have a fat cow. Oh, hey. No, that's not the story. But in our mind, we're running around with this story. And then we go, we're not kings and queens today.
No.
Are we not? Are we? Or do we have to be at all? The reality is that these stories, I'm not this. Like sometimes this is what kills me when the story gets in front of the practice. You say, it's messed up, I'm not achieving this. And then I ask you, what's your practice, huh? What practice? What do you mean by the word? Okay, like what's the word practice mean?
Don't get Allen Iverson on me.
Yeah, but this is the kind of shit I deal with all the time, where they don't realize that the story that you are not, your story becomes such an identity. It assumes the practice. It assumed the hard work. It assumed the smart experience. It assumed the strategical thinking. It assumed the economic growth. It assumed a bigger bank account. Mm-hmm. This is how cold stories can get. Stories get so bad, it'll tell you this is what you should be doing, this is what you deserve, and this is where you should be. And once you really dive deeper, you realize the foundation of all that is a story you told yourself. Ain't got shit to do with your engagement in reality. Also with reality, so we read a lot of books similar to Sapiens. And Sapiens is an excellent world history book. And you realize about 100 years ago, 80% of the world was in poverty. 80% of the world was in poverty just 100 years ago. Go back and look at documentaries of America about 60 years ago. You're like, damn. They show this, the camera shows this, but go learn a little bit about America. You're like, whoa. Folks is broke as fuck. The average poor person in the hood right now is living better than a lot of people. Shit, in the 80s even. Poverty in the 80s. 80s, New York, poverty, y'all didn't get a chance to see that shit. You had 13-year-old girls considering prostitute because they can't eat. Mm-hmm. It was bad. Bad as fuck. Oakland is close to impossible to starve. Now, if you don't know anything, you don't realize they give all this free food all over the place, you may starve. But it's close to impossible to starve in Oakland. We are actually, as a culture, wealthier than we've ever been in human history. But when we tell ourselves a story of what we don't have, We feel like we are doing worse than the brothers and sisters who slept at the bottom of the slave ship.
Also, too, this is a form of stoicism, right? It's a form of stoicism. And great leaders know how to tap into that. And that's the baseline for growth and progression and improvement and strategy. If you don't have a level of stoicism, it'll be like, okay, this shit is what it is. What's the numbers? What's the losses? How many men, how many women do we have? What's this? And get the data, and then you accept it fully. There's no emotion behind it. Okay, this is what we got. Let's move the fuck forward. Let's do this. Let's do that. That level of stoicism is what allows us to have great strategy. Because if we put emotion on top of any occurrence, and you create a strategy on top of an emotional story of an occurrence, then you're gonna skew your outcome, because it should be a false narrative. You're building on a false narrative. So this practice is, can you remove that bullshit idea of fairness out of your psychology? Can you do that? If you can do that, life will get better. Doesn't mean it necessarily won't be hard sometimes, because we're humans and we ain't perfect. Fuck, we ain't perfect. However, more times than not, you'll be able to maneuver better. Or when you get into that emotional space, you can reel yourself back and be like, okay, look, man, shit ain't fair. Life ain't supposed to be fair. Fuck it. All right, it is what it is.
Let me show you. Okay, so for those of you, I'm not sure how many of you guys know what is a mental model. Mental model is a mental 3D construction of the world. So let me explain to you how mental models work. You take your car to dealership and you say, hey, there's something wrong with my car, and the mechanic says, pop the engine. And when the engine starts to run, the mechanic has a mental model of how the engine is supposed to sound. And if the sound is off, he instantly or she instantly knows where to go to solve the problem, because they have a clear mental model of how the engine works. Where many of us don't realize when we're having a lot of conversations in the community, our mental models are damaged and we don't know to examine those things. Mm-hmm. So if you have a poor understanding of how something works, when a problem occurs, you are inefficient at getting to the solution because you can't clearly pinpoint the problem. So one of the things we try to bring to your attention is that there's a need for mental model upgrades in this class, because many of us are suffering because we have poor mental models. I was talking to Brother Dave Max.
Dave Max.
Dave Max is, because you know that Chicago just make you want to talk like you're a player when you call his name. Brother Dave Max. Just and I was telling Dave Max, I said, you know what's strange about this class? Is black folks, because the way our relationship with education has not been smooth. It's been kind of full of friction and rocky, right? And so when people come into this class, they don't come into this class, like imagine your knowledge is a pile of rocks. They're saying to themselves, hey, I come to this class to get a couple of nuggets to throw in my pile to enrich my pile. What we're saying is if you're going from having a job to become an entrepreneur, that whole pile may be contaminated. And that pile represents your mental models. How you see the world working, how you see race, how you see love, how you see kids, how you see life in its full expansion, how do you see banking, how do you see investments, how do you see risk? These are all mental models. Mm-hmm. And if you're not challenging your mental models, you're building on a damaged ass foundation. So when those areas break down, you don't even have the skills to jump back in and go, okay, I see what the problem is. So you start moving much more effective. Your decision making, your problem solving is accelerated. Instead, you're solving a problem by patching it, avoiding it, going around it, or when you do fix it, it's flawed. And so the problem is not just knowledge, but what is your mental models of how this world works? And if that's not constantly being examined and put on the table for review, you could currently be operating with a bad mental model, and because it's worked so far, you don't even know that that's a thing.
Yeah, that's game. That's game. It brought another point to me, and that's this: is you think about subtle tweaks, right? Life is about 3 degrees a lot of times. We all basically in this blob, and then there's 3 degrees of thinking, tweaking, and over time that 3 degrees look crazy, right?
It's huge.
And so one of them is this: if just one simple idea of accepting the world the way it is, if we both enter a problem and you're emotional and I'm not, say I'm emotional and you're not, I have to spend time to wind down my emotions to get to a space where I can get to a solution. And you already there. Soon as the problem hits, because it is what it is. All right, what are we going to do to fix it? And I'm like, how could he do this to me? Why? This is, okay, calm down. All right, fuck, okay, all right. And by the time I calm down, now I'm ready to you already halfway to the solution. Now I'm there. Now another situation happens. And over time,
Compound
20,
loss.
30 years later, that person's doing super good in life and I'm not there yet. Why? We ain't nothing different. What's wrong with you? And it could be that one distinction of just taking shit is, the idea of it is what it is, taking the world for what it is. So you be like, it's very imperative to look at mental models like that to know that, damn, those could be things that are holding me back in my progress, and that's why shit may be taking so long for me to get where I want to go.
Like one of the things that Shakir helped me out with, and we kind of worked on it, and we worked on this together because we had the same problem because we came from the conscious movement, was we were into titling people. She's stupid. She's smart. She's progressive. She's not. This is. And I started just saying that is what it is. People are who they are. Matter of fact, you may seem stupid to me based upon where I'm at, but based upon where you are, it is knowledge. Mm-hmm. Right? Based upon the people you're around, it's relevant, right? But the reason that shit was damaging, because when you start titling all these flaws, so-called flaws in society, as we realize that God made a perfect earth and you're here to share that experience, and God, the earth He created is full of games and challenges, and you guys get around those games and challenges, but they just are what they are. But if you don't see it that way, mm-hmm. you start building make-believe response. I mean, because you see so many things as flawed, you develop a make-believe relationship with self. Now you think you're that perfect superhero that can't do no wrong. Mm-hmm. Do you understand how that's breaking you? Because when you do wrong, you will almost avoid yourself. You engage in forms of escapism. Like reality becomes painful to deal with. Matter of fact, when somebody you can get so damaged in this space of, this is by you judging and devaluing everything around you, you get to the point where I might say, hey, Court, you should do it this way. And he will fire off on me, not because I gave him a suggestion, because in his brain he said, oh, he's only telling me this, meaning making machine, because he thinks I'm no good. He thinks I'm one of those stupid people he talked about. You get where I'm going with this? That rhythm, when you can get to that point where you say, man, all people are good. I mean, I agree with everybody, but all people are good. We might even align. We might even come against each other, but all people ultimately are good.
You know what's dope about what you just said? It's like, how you said a couple weeks ago, how we agree on shit, but we come from sometimes 2 different worlds. That's my woo shit.
Yeah.
But then you've learned so much that you brought it around to this, and that's my woo shit.
Yeah.
All people are good. All people, but it's the same thought.
Yeah.
Which I think I just had.
That's
to
tight. No, that's tight. I think growth. I think that's the beautiful thing about spirituality and growth. It all does land in the same space. Mm-hmm. Ultimately land in the same space. Last one for this podcasting, open to questions. It says, how much emotional labor are you able and willing to expand to accomplish the things you set out to do? This is important. When you decide you want to do something and your brain is coming up with all these, that you know how your brain is creating a vision. And when your brain creates a vision, it can get away from you sometimes. You have this big vision, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. Understand the vision is an imaginary outcome because you don't really know what the outcome's going to really be. But if you can't enjoy the journey, don't do it. That's number one. Whatever that vision is, if you don't enjoy the journey, don't do it because you're going to suck. You're going to lose confidence. It's almost like you're going to practice, but you don't want to be there and you wonder why you don't ever play. But in addition to that, understand that once you make that decision, you got to pay emotional cost, whatever you do. So when I said earlier, seek to understand, not be understood, somebody might be like, I don't know. You gonna try to tell us how to respond to some shit? Who the fuck you think? Oh, Oakland ass dude gonna try to tell me some shit, right? that's the way we talk. It comes out here. But point is this. Yeah, goddamn right. Now spend that emotional labor and go there. There's times I've been checked by my mentor, and I had to spend emotional labor to shut the fuck up and listen. Because when he finishes, let me give you a cold-blooded strategy I used this week. I had a bad client that I foolishly picked up because I called myself doing my version of non-social justice. That's why I need to whoop my ass. So I went ahead and took this client on. And this client called me complaining about something because they didn't know what the fuck they was doing. Like somebody, somebody take on a role, but they don't really know what the responsibility of the role. So they don't have the knowledge of the role. So they turn their blame on me. And so as I try to explain to the person that no, look, out of 100 customers, you're the first complaint. Mm-hmm. Right? Well, how would I know? East Oakland was like, say what you want to say. And I was like, nah, bro, that's not how we get down business. You don't do that. So she kept writing. And I realized I don't want to do business with her and I want her to fire me, but I also don't want to build a negative experience because I am a business. Now, a personal version of me, if it had been me personally, like she called me up to ask me to do something, I'd be like, yo, get the fuck off my phone. I ain't fucking with you, click. And the phone ring like, I don't know why she called me back. I'm serious, right? I'm done. But when it's business, I got to spend emotional labor of override Nana. Because Nana could be an asshole, especially when you waste my fucking time with some stupid ass shit. So I'm biting my lip and blood is dripping on my goddamn keyboard because I want to say some shit so bad, right? But then I was like, wait a minute, Nana, you get emotional. So you get emotional, you create a wall, you stop thinking. Lower your emotions, breathe. So she's talking. I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use a reverse tactic. I'm going to tell her she's right, give her a win, and then ultimately close out with a win. So I said, you know what? That was actually brilliant what you said. I didn't really think about it that way, and I think, by listening to you, I can see where you're going with this. And, and I apologize for that, because, at the end of the day, that's the way I should probably focus on serving you. But moving forward, I think what we could do is this, which was my original fucking suggestion. She's like, yeah, I'm glad, because, I mean, how else was it? And she went on to, reinforce why she was right. I let her get that out of her system. And in the end, she's like, thank you for helping us move forward, and I'm glad to be moving forward with you. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, God, I can't wait till this country goes away. Right? But it's called losing to win.
Yep.
You can't lose to win if you're too damn emotional.
Yep. Man.
Sometimes you have to give an argument up. Give that person that small win so you can go home. It's like, you won this battle, but I won the war, baby. Mm-hmm. And that in itself, I'm from East Oakland. That one was emotional. I spent so much emotional money on that motherfucker there. I feel like Michael Jordan gambling. I was dropping millions on that one, right? Because that's just not how I fucking like to get down. But that's one of my hardest strategies. Because I don't like to lose like that, right? Because I'm competitive. But sometimes I will give a false win so I can win the war.
Yep.
Questions. If you trip over yourself, run into that microphone, I'm going to laugh. You got up so fast. I was just teasing you. Go ahead. Oh, that would not be nice. That would be nice. Okay, go ahead. Is it on? There you go. As long as the green light comes on, you good. Okay.
Now it is. Okay.
Can we turn the in-house speaker up a little bit? Just the in-house speaker up just a little bit? Okay, go
You want me
ahead.
to talk louder?
No, not you. You're fine. I got to be able to hear it clearer and hear the context of the sound. Go ahead. Try again.
Got you. So first one is on sunk costs. There's a lot of questions.
Oh yeah, sunk cost is painful.
So,
And it takes practice. This is a practice thing. You're not gonna get there from just knowing, learn the theory and know this is something else you have to add to your practices.
I think these could be called like clarifying questions. So the first one comes from Ty, girl Ty.
Hey, Ty.
She said, it seems like Seth was saying at one part that sunk costs may benefit him in a way. Can sunk costs benefit, or is it a negative or disappointment?
None of the three. Sunk cost is a mental fallacy. It's a mental weakness. Because the human brain is hard for us. Remember I said last week, pull apart the past, the present, and the future? No, he was not telling you sunk cost is a good thing. It's not a good thing at all. It's what he was highlighting in the podcast is quite often it's hard for people to process it, and a lot of times people are surprised by the idea. It's like, oh my God, that's revolutionary. Because most people merge past, present, and the future. So sunk cost by far is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's a bad strategy. Good and bad is too strong of a word to put on sunk costs. Because I think sunk cost is something we all fall victim to, even when we practice it all the time. There's a place we can fall victim to it. There's times when, like, let's say there's things in your house right now you won't throw away because of sunk costs, right? A hoarder is the ultimate sunk cost victim, right? And so, or you have a car. You're like, I don't spend all this money trying to repair this car. Or brothers and sisters with the old school cars, and you done dropped about 5-10 G's on that Nova, or the Chevy Nova, or that Mustang, or that Camaro, or that Riviera, or that Monte Carlo, right? And you done dropped all that cash, and you don't realize you could have bought a Corvette with all that motherfucking money you spent on that piece of shit. Sunk costs.
So as a follow-up to that, if someone is emotionally intelligent enough, can they manipulate you by leveraging your, like if they have knowledge of your sunk costs, or they have knowledge of something that's, if they're privy to your sunk costs, can they use it to manipulate you?
The word is, I don't like the word manipulation, because manipulation has a negative undertone to it. Can they influence you? Absolutely could.
Yeah.
All this stuff is influence. Look, business is learning how to influence people. Look, you're not in business. If you don't know how to influence people, it's gonna be a rough ass business.
Yeah.
Hi. You want to buy Apple? No. You want to buy Apple? You better figure out how to make everybody want to eat an apple that damn day. For the time they get their car, they need to see red. They need to see a kid. It's the best apple ever. And if it's an old dude who's lost his swag, maybe it's a pretty girl by the apple. It's the best apple ever, right? And as he walk up, he should smell. Does that smell like apples? Oh my God! And then somebody's drinking an apple martini. This is the best apple. And then you sitting there going, "Hey, apples for sale." I don't know what it is, but I think I want an apple. I just primed your ass, right? So you can call it manipulation, but I just influenced you. That's what business is. Yeah. And everything is competing for your attention. And if you don't become the master influencer, it's going to reflect in your bank account.
Yeah, I don't want to say if you're emotionally intelligent. If you become a great marketer, brander, salesperson, you can use all the tools to manipulate. Manipulate not in a bad way, but just to manipulate for your gain. Like that's how a lot of people who are in the stock market get convinced not to sell, even though they lost. That's sunk cost. That's from the book we read, How I Lost $1 Million. So sunk cost is, yeah, you can, and it all depends on where you're going.
Yeah, I can come to you real quick and be like, yo, I think it's gonna work. No, I think you're right, and everybody else, you're a visionary. And people don't see what you're coming from. You should hold on to that. Hold on to that Camaro. Hold on to those stocks. Hold on to this. Hold on to that. And matter of fact, tell you what, you should go and polish it up. I'm selling these rims. They can probably raise the value of it. I just use sunk costs against you.
Yeah, here's another one. Toxic, abusive, shitty relationship. But look, we've been together for 6 years. So, we have to I don't want to start out. Do you want to start all over? Start dating again? Go on these shitty dates? 2020 ain't nothing out there. So we might as well make this shit work. You know what I mean? Like we might as well make it work. That's not emotional intelligence. That's manipulation. Sunk cost.
You're 15 years from retirement, 10 years from retirement. You should leave this job. It's a really good job. sunk cost manipulation. Go ahead.
Next one,
Just leave the microphone. Just lean into the microphone.
Okay,
And they
go ahead.
keep moving one more time. Hey, y'all, can we do a favor? Can we reduce movement during classes? Go ahead. Keep going.
so there was a conversation online about wrestling with wanting, this is about certainty. Perfectionism, wrestling with wanting to know exactly what move to make, and sometimes getting paralyzed into learning versus just doing. So the question is, what's the difference between what Gillette is doing, and they're looking at people shaving every day, and this concept of getting too stuck in perfection? How are they different?
Well, the difference is what Jeanette is doing. See, learning and doing is a combination. Look, when you start doing, you know what helps you get back to work, or helps you, is when you focus on being professional, which is hitting your deadlines, paying your bills, getting enough money to eat a sandwich, holes in your shoes. That shit brings clarity. And so the reality is that where I think we go wrong quite often is we have soft tension. Soft tension is, let's say you work in a business where the bills are kind of getting paid anyway, or you're living with somebody where the cost of living is really kind of low, or you subsidize, or you have a job and you bring a business on the side. All these are all soft tension spaces. So now you're over focusing on A, right? Other thing is that when Gillette is doing that, that is a branch of research and development. That is not the core business. The core business has to move, right? That's a different approach. Research and development is there to break, explore, discover, and improve. That's the business that they're in. So the core business is actually subsidizing that business, right? So a lot of times when you're running a business, you have to practice on, look, you gotta get away from the idea of work. That's slave thinking, that's job thinking. You gotta get into the business of, I'm running a business, meaning I need it to function smart. The intelligence of your business matters. There you go, put that on your shirt. Intelligence of my business matters. Don't say Black Lives, just say that on your shirt. Shit makes a lot of fucking sense. Anyway, intelligence of your business matters. Because if you're working hard without the intelligence, you try to become an employee. That's pretty much what you just did. And in matter of fact, you become a slave. What you want to do is focus on how to make your business smarter. So you got to have experimented research and development, exploration, discovery, observation, right? When you decide, another thing too, don't focus on the American bad tradition of which is start running really, really fast and be slowed down by errors, mistakes, and loss of customers. Start off by moving a little bit slower in the beginning, getting it really, really smart, and then putting your foot on the accelerator and going fast on the back end. That way you're moving with a high level of efficiency.
Yeah. Also, Gillette is a 100-year-old company. They invented
Jesus.
the razor. So before that, you used to go to the barber shop and have that long thing, and the guy shaved you, and that's the only way you can get shaved. So they were the inventor of the at-home portable razor. So that's what's even more dope about that story, is that 100 fucking years later, they still putting that much effort into improving. Now, I'm sure, I can almost bet that the razor that they started off with 100 years ago is not the same razor they use today, but they still put that shit out, and then they progressed it and tweaked it, progressed it for 100 years. That's the razor that they use now. So there's a huge difference, because some of us as entrepreneurs get stuck at making a 2020 razor versus a 1920 razor and putting it out.
And another thing too, here's another thing too. Experience is not an automatic upgrade. Because a lot of times we do the same thing every year, so that's not really a healthy experience. If you're not constantly reinventing yourself every year, then if you're constantly reinventing yourself every year, then your experience is valuable. But if you have experience doing something, but it was done poorly, and your reinventing process or your refresh process was poor, then the experience is very low. And I've been in arguments with somebody going, well, I've done this before, I've done that before. And I wanted to say, but it was piss poor, so it doesn't matter this fucking conversation.
Yeah.
Dope. Next question. When you talk about changing our stories, what's the difference between changing your story and affirmations? Is there a difference?
Oh yeah,
What's
big
the
difference. Big difference. Big difference. Changing your story is the difference between affirmation and changing your story is if an occurrence happened, what that occurrence means to you, you create a narrative, you create a story. So if something tragic happened or you had a childhood trauma, what that trauma means to you is your story. Well, that means to me life is not fair. That's my story that I'm telling. Life ain't fair. Or black people steal. That's my story because everywhere I looked around, black folks stole from me in the hood. So that's my story. So now I'm moving that space of black people stealing. So us changing the narrative is you can take the same occurrence and flip it on its side, on its back, or different places and create a new story that empowers you. All we're trying to do is take disempowering stories from you and put in empowering stories so that it adds value like the podcast talked about, so it can add value and you can contribute and create contribution. Affirmations is you repeating to yourself certain beliefs. Affirmations, like over the years, they took a fucked up turn. That's why, like the term affirmation by itself is just is like he uses a term hijacked. It started off with good intent, but the term's been hijacked. But the best affirmations, if you affirm the truth, they have to be rooted in truth. You can't be like, I'm a millionaire, motherfucker. You ain't there yet. So it has to be rooted in truth. You can say, hey, this is what it is, but I know I'm getting better. But stories is true beliefs in yourself.
So when we are hearing podcasts or listening to podcasts, we're repeating what Seth or anybody said because we like it and it resonated with us. What does that mean? And is that us changing our story, or is that just sort of emotional
Well,
expression?
so let me say this, the complexity of the story. A bad story can embrace the truth. A good story and a bad story can embrace the same truth. Mm-hmm. They just will apply it differently. It's another layer, actually. So when you hear Seth Godin, and also when you listen to Seth Godin, I'm not in your head to see what you listen to and what Court listened to. So what may resonated with you might be A and C, and what resonated with him was B and F, right? So, and then what resonated with somebody else might be the whole fucking podcast, because a story is changing the value of how you show up. That's why the story we tell ourselves is what's compromising us in educational systems. So we're going to Harvard, sitting next to the white kid, but he's telling himself a different story. So at the end of the day, how we utilize that education and how that education serves us is different because of the story we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Shit, you think about hip-hop, hardcore hip-hop, rap music, gangster shit, trap music, and you have people in Africa who listen to Tupac to go to war with each other. And us in our neighborhoods, we listen to hardcore music before we ready to go to war with each other. But the biggest consumers of rap music are white people. So how come they not doing that? Because they tell themselves a completely different story when they listen to the music. They have narratives underneath that protect them from letting that influence that in their brains. When I was a kid, if I want to get hyped before a fight, I want to listen because it gets in and I feel it. Now I'm ready. So it's all about narrative. It's all about the story.
Last one. This is from Kaja. She said, I felt my professional acumen was called into question this week in a way that resonated as dismissive. I had what I believe, in quotes, was a wolf reaction in professionally but clearly flashing on the person. But I'm aware of how that potentially gets defined as an angry black woman. How have you navigated this space in your business?
Flashing is always call flashing a loss, because that means you took over me. Like if you could make me flash, I gave you my power. So I don't know. The angry black woman is a myth that I don't really want to tap into because it's too full of just junk and biases and stories that I'm not necessarily. I agree with the mental model of those stories, right? But if you flash, you want to stop and say, hey, why did I flash? Why couldn't I whoop this person? And mind you, don't beat yourself up, because when you flash, it's a observation, not a time to shame yourself. So don't go back and go, oh, I shouldn't, and I should have did it this way. Oh, I can't understand what's wrong with me. No, that's not what I'm suggesting. You did, which was based upon the intelligence that you have at that time. It was perfect. Based upon why you joined this class, it was very imperfect. Because even when you tell yourself the angry black woman, that's a story. So now you're competing with that story as you process this thought. As I realize that, okay, if you turn the emotions down all this, what else could you have done? And then also observe within that discussion, there's a hidden pattern that led to that moment. Look at the pattern and look at times you did not see the pattern unfolding. And when it got to a point that you flashed, what could you have done in the early stages of those patterns? So as you now move forward, you're a little bit more observant and you can head it off before it even raises to a certain point, right? There's never, as an entrepreneur, if I flash, I don't give a fuck who I flashed on. I'm never going to celebrate it. Have I used flash as a fake strategy? Yeah, I have. But is it a strategy I stay away from? Yeah, I do. Because I need to think through this process. And when I get to the point the word flash, which is I kind of like went there, then that means that you was winning. Because flashing, I remember I had this ex-girlfriend back in the days. And this little young lady said to me, I was saying something to her. She said, look, fuck all that little foo-foo shit you be saying. And I don't want to say what I said, but I went there. And I went there strong. Like, I went there like all East Oakland straight up. Like, who in the fuck you think you talking to? Now, we were on the phone, so there was no violence, but my words was pretty damn violent. I didn't say I'm gonna beat your ass. I don't touch women. But I pretty much was like, I'm trying to be nice, and you over here disrespecting my niceness. But then I realized, and I calmed down less than 1 minute later, and I was like, that's your control system. I'm over this. You will never have that on me again. See, you need attention. You need this to validate yourself. And if I give this to you, you won. See, the way, if you want to win in that, whatever happened, your outcome or your long-term play is the goal, and that's all that matters. Everything else is distortion.
Just add to it. This is what he taught me 2 years ago, because I had a lot of shit, but I didn't have that yet. I was flashing a lot, flashing on customers, flashing on people in the fucking parking lot, and once all I had to do was hear the way that was framed and realized, if I view it as a game, I just changed the story in my head. Now it's a game. So now I approach it as, I don't want you to win, I want to win. So you're playing your move, and now like, all right, let's see what my move is going to be. I learned that here. So the best way to learn it, stick in the class, because the same shit that he just said, he's probably repeated to me 2 or 3 times. And it only took 2 or 3 times to repeat it to be like, oh, I got it. So now it's a fun game. Motherfucker flashes, or he says some slick shit, or stuff that he thinks is gonna get under my skin, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's play this shit then. And that's how you gain customers. That's how. Damn.
Black folks with thunder and lightning. Let me say something real quick. That story about thunder and lightning with black people. So in Oakland, y'all, we just heard thunder. And Court is one of the toughest cats in the world. He was like, damn.
Like Godzilla was outside. Yeah. Anyways, done.
Yeah. Right on. Come on, sis.
Hello.
Hey.
My name is Sharon, and this is my first year of Hope.
Hey,
What's
right on,
up,
Sharon.
Sharon?
How you doing?
And my question is, there's been so many gems in just the few weeks of the
Thank you,
course.
sis. Thank you.
And I am one of those perfectionists that you speak of. I will gobble up knowledge, sit on it. So what advice would you give us new ones coming in, and all this knowledge is being provided? How do you put together a practice? How do you put together putting this stuff into practice? Because that's been my issue. I have a lot of knowledge, but I don't do anything with it because I get paralyzed. It's like, oh, like, how do you put this into play?
So, okay,
Thank you for that.
yeah, first of all, first of all, it speaks to your strength because perfectionism is tied to trauma. It's 100% tied to trauma. And on top of that, too, there's a couple of things you have to do. One is the people around you matter now more than ever. Because I had worked at UPS for 1 month as an IT person. Worst experience ever, by the way. Worse. I promise you. I thought I was in prison. But I worked at UPS for 1 month, and I saw this black supervisor take a check and throw it on the floor and say, "That's what you deserve to employ." So I walked up to the dude because as an IT person, I didn't work on the floor. I had a job where I would come in, punch a clock, put a pager on, and go home and take a nap, and then come back, punch the clock, and go back home, right? But just seeing that environment made me want to throw up because it was like a degrading environment to my people, and that would get to my stomach. So of course I'm gonna go to the brother like, "Hey man, that shit just happened to you?" He's like, "Yeah, but I mean, right now there's not a lot of jobs out there right now, so I just gotta stomach this shit." And the person next to him was like, "Yeah, there's not a lot of jobs out there right now." And guess what? That mindset was reinforcing, and he wasn't going to change his actions. Also, I heard another person who had something very similar, had a government job. A government job. And he got ready to leave, and the people was like, "Why are you leaving? Like, this shit is a cushion-ass job. Why would you leave?" But he had friends who was like, "Man, we going to leave that motherfucker, man." If you don't have friends who are moving, it's going to make it hard to get past that traumatic space. Because it's a trauma is tied to that. It's not a reflection of you. It's something that happened to you early, and that's your natural response, right? And we will get into stuff that can help you even empower you. I seen her work out.
I heard of stories.
Her and Cassandra, if they ask you to work out, just
No,
pass out.
no.
Just pass out.
No. I seen her name in the rafters at Bayfair.
Yeah, no. Her and Cassandra, I think they eat sugar and they go work out because they just do some ridiculous amount of shit. But very strong sisters. That's what I'm trying to lean into because the mental level of discipline that you have, the commitment, the follow through, they are absolutely paying an emotional cost because there's days I'm sure they got up and they're like, "I don't want to do this shit." But when you see them, they seem like the brand of "I'm about to do this shit," right? So we know you have the mechanisms built into you. And then you just added, "I have the mechanism of knowledge," right? One of my concerns is, do you have the mechanism of support? Because if you don't have that mechanism of support, then you're fighting not only yourself, but you're fighting the norm, and your norm is your surroundings, right? And so it's like what some people have done in Hope, and I'm sure you're going to probably plug into the same thing, is they start to plug into other entrepreneurs in the class that helps them normalize the process of this growth. Because one thing, this little lady right here, Shakina Little McNeil, Little is the name. We and Court are working on her court papers, but we just assume that Little should be her middle name. But point is this: so Shakina Little McNeil is a perfect example of just do it. I know that's a phrase that sounds so fucking corny, but just do it. And be comfortable. I think sometimes too, we're over-invested in the outcome.
Yeah.
Like it has to get an A or it has to be perfect. And you're going to realize, like, when we first started Hope, I wish you was here. The first version of Hope was me. I promise you, I got a video. I'm going to probably post it when I'm going to get Danielle to post it. I'm sure she would happily post it because it's capping on me. And Danielle's a master jokester. It's me coming in from a workout with some shorts, a workout sweatshirt. I mean, literally short sweatshirt. I walk in like, oh shit, all these people? That's literally what I probably said. I'm not sure if it was on camera. And I just started teaching class and had a black board, me standing up with just chairs of all different styles just sitting around me, and there's hella people in the room. I'm thinking, all right, let me tell you about this business shit, right? And if you've seen even 2 years ago, it was me and Court sitting here with a white chalkboard behind us and 2 stools teaching. I'm not sure we even have microphones. Yeah, okay. I need both of y'all to like just fix your stories. Anyway, point is this: and so walking your truths, not our truths. And each year we get closer to that process. Perfection, the level of perfectionism that you wish to achieve. If you could kind of turn it down a little bit, but even when you turn it down, realize it's not the initiation; it's the destination. And if you understand that. It's almost like when you're building something to perfection, you're really excited about it, that's fine. It's when you try to get there prematurely, it's not fine. You may start with tape hangers and an idea that later on turns into a factory. But you gotta start off with the tape and hangers as an idea. Like one of the things I tell a lot of people when they start a business, shrink that business down to the simplest model possible. That you can go sell it almost tomorrow if you wanted to. And then over time evolve it, because that process is not because I'm saying shrink who you are. That process is so you can eventually take that knowledge, make all the errors you're going to make, because that's the agreement you have to make, and then make an agreement to make all those errors, you become that person you want to be. But you got to agree to be flawed, to become dope. Okay. I mean, think about this. I don't know who you were, what your shape was, or how tight you were, or how healthy you was, or how hard you worked out in the beginning, but I'm sure day one wasn't like that. No. Right? Where now today you're intimidating. I promise you, we will never work out. I'm sorry, I'll give you a high five, I'm gonna keep it moving. That's just how it's gonna be. Right?
Real shit. I was just about to, that was gonna be my intro, was that I know you didn't start off where you are now. The thing I will add is, this is fun. Once you get to a certain stage, it's always fun because it's your purpose. But as you grow, as you expand, as you hire more employees, as your revenue increases, the pressures change. This is the funnest time. You can put $500 in something and it completely bombs and nobody knows or gives a fuck. You could do it again. You could do it 5 more times and nobody knows or gives a fuck. That's the fun of it. So if you look at it like, man, because entrepreneurship, as we know, you're failing forward anyway. You have more failures than you do successes. The goal is that your strategy creates the ones that do succeed outweigh all the failures. So this is a failing forward game anyway. So at your stage, it's even funner because you can blow shit up, tear shit up, whatever your business idea is. Oh shit, I'm gonna put that in a garage or closet, or it's gonna be hella homeless people walking around with this because I got to give it away. But that's the fun part. And then you'll notice you're getting better because you're doing it. So it's all about doing it. All about doing it, all about going for it, having fun doing it, experimenting, tinkering, and taking the mentality that you have, the current mentality of, I got to get this done right. I don't know if you were an athlete growing up or whatever we talked about childhood-wise, where failure, not an option. Not an option. You felt, what are you thinking? Like, so the mindset is I can't fail. If I swing, I got to hit a home run every time. The entrepreneurship is different. You get to enjoy fucking up.
Yeah.
That's the beauty.
Yeah. And I think another thing too is you have a lot of the mental experience you've been going through with this working out is almost parallel to what you're about to go through in the business stuff. Okay. It's gonna be days where you don't feel like no progress. You remember those times when you was working out, you're like, I ain't making no progress. Yeah. And then somehow you got a picture back or you got a measurement back, you're like, what? Damn, I did that good, right? But that's how this. And many of those days, think Think about it, when you first went to the gym, you call your girlfriends, you call male friends, and they're all like, go, girl, you're the best. Well, let's go ahead, right? Call them 3 months in, they're like, why are you calling me with this shit? like when you're doing business, no one cares once you're really into it, right? It's people will see you at peaks and at moments, but they don't see you every day. Now, once your business grows beyond you, meaning you have a real business, it is a status upgrade. But it's so funny, it's an invisible status upgrade. You won't even see it happening. One day you'll go into a party and they'll be like, yo, you own this business. You're like, why y'all acting like that?
Yeah.
And because it's chatter happening around because you're not even part of that chatter because you wasn't seeking that. You was growing your baby and you didn't realize that baby was not only providing financial benefits, it provided leadership benefits. Meaning like something happened, like, hey, Sharon, you want to lead this? And you'd be like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm over eating a cookie. What the fuck are you talking about, right? Well, maybe a healthy cookie. And then, or it's a situation where, or you'll walk into a room and all of a sudden people applaud and you're like, you changed my life. You're thinking, huh? Right? That's the beautiful side. This entrepreneurship is really changing your position in society. And society respects you from what you create on a whole different scale. Like your voice matters, right? And so what I'm saying is that you've already taken the hardest, a physical journey. Promise you, at every pain point, you're going to have a reference. Well, other people be like, oh, what does this mean? You'll say, well, I've been here before. I got to push through. Or I've been here before. That means I'm going through this experience, right? And so you have more benefits than just knowledge. You are actually practicing entrepreneur growth rhythms, which is the way that you engage exercising. You don't engage exercise like maybe Josh does when he's on his cell phone and he's just sitting there doing Stairmasters at level 1. You do that real shit, and so that's providing hella feedback and gifts. And so between you growing, being in a group, the only thing you're missing is take that first leap. And if you're having problems with that, go meet a little Shakina. A Shakina and a little McNeil, right? And you'll find all of a sudden, because she jumps all the fucking time. She'll jump off a fucking building, you'll be like, oh, she don't even have a fucking parachute. Where's she going? Right? But somehow she figured out how to fucking land. Right? And so you might not take up, you might be like, her style ain't my style, but fucking go steal her jumping style. Right? So I'm saying, like, you got to get around people who move like that. And if everybody's moving in loss aversion, you're going to suffer from that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's jump into some of this cold, extraordinary mind because this shit's about to get sexy. This is the famous court statement. Is it true? Is it true?
Man.
Look. One of the things that's going to help you guys in this culture escape space, when you're going through your beliefs and you're auditing your beliefs, hopefully you guys understand how important beliefs are. The beliefs are really your reality. Okay, we're going to move kind of fast because I'm going to get through half of these. I don't give a damn what Danielle's at house because they're probably gambling right now, playing dominoes, betting that I will not get to slide 22 or 23 and watch me do it. But here's the thing. The first move you want to do about your beliefs, the move you want to make on your beliefs, ask yourself a simple question. Every belief you have, is it absolutely true? If you can't confirm that is absolutely true, it's probably a bullshit rule.
Yeah. And this is a cognitive distortion killer. That's why I love these three words. It kills hella cognitive distortions if you ask this question afterward. If you guys don't realize so far in this class, your self-talk is everything. So the conversations you have with yourself is everything. And adding this question to your repertoire of self-talk is a cure-all. It's a killer of cognitive distortion. Beautiful.
You know, cops don't like us. White people hate us. Is it true?
Come on.
Is it completely true? And the devil's in the details sometimes. Let's go to the next. I'm going to keep it going. Turn a meaning-making machine into a question. Mm-hmm. So when you have that meaning-making machine experience, so you say, you know what, Shakita wearing a mask half mask. She probably don't value me. Ask yourself a question. I wonder if Shakita values me. Say, Shakita, let me ask you something. Why do you wear that mask, half mask? Does it have any association with the way you see me? turn your meanings into a question, and you will quiet that meaning-making machine the fuck down. I promise you, that's why I said when you start making statements of your feelings, sometimes those feelings are reinforced by meaning-making machines. But if you turn that statement into a question, then the meaning-making machine will realize, oh, that person wasn't threatening me, that person was just speaking their opinion. Now, if you believe everybody has a right to their opinion, it's funny how we don't show up like that. Because when somebody shows a different opinion, we see it as a threat to ourselves because we put meaning to their opinion. So if you take opinion and just ask a question, you took the wind out of that emotion. And emotion doesn't, see, look, the shit we share in this class is to help you control your emotions and control that negative space you're constantly jumping in and out of. If you're always jumping in that negative space and have these negative feelings, the only person you cutting and slicing is yourself. You're not hurting nobody else. I talked to this dude the other day and I said, man, do you realize that human beings have been here for millions of years? Do you realize that half the shit you want to do, ain't nobody going to ever give a fuck about it? Meaning that a lot of times we just take ourselves too fucking serious. Yeah, I'm trying to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and it got to be done because you know that's not true. You're going to die. The next generation. Look, have you guys ever been listening to your favorite song by your favorite artist that came out when you in the 80s, 70s, and maybe even 90s? And you turn to somebody who was born in 2010, like a kid, and say, man, that's Stevie Wonder. Like, who? Man, Muhammad Ali. Who? Michael Jackson. Michael what? Malcolm X. Malcolm, wait, why did they put an X at the end? You see what I'm saying? How the meaning-making machine, how your brain goes, this child should know Malcolm X. That child, Malcolm who? I promise you, I was talking to Diallo about some song. Well, Diallo's not. I was talking to Diallo about some song, and somebody was standing next to him. I think it was maybe Layla or somebody. And I called out the artist, and they said, I don't really know who that is. And I couldn't even say, oh, you don't have culture. I'm like, that person died 10 years before she was even born.
Right.
And the last hit was about 25 years. Half of y'all sitting in this class don't know who the Dramatics are.
That's an emotion.
You know what I'm saying? Like that Dramatics, you know, Stylists and Dramatics. If you're, anyway, that's real music. But point is, let's stay away from all that. But my point is this: is that that's how cold it is. So the meaning-making machine is you got to turn your meanings into questions. He doesn't like me. Did he say he didn't like you? No. Then ask that man, does he like you? And if you don't want to ask him, you're like, well, he ain't worth it, then why the fuck you worried about it? It's that simple. You know, white folks in Nebraska don't like black people. I'm not sure why the fuck I give a fuck. I'm never going to Nebraska. I don't even know why I would go to Nebraska. Anyway, sorry, Nebraska.
Hey.
If you ever watch this shit, sorry, your shit sounds whack to me.
In the 80s, a lot of dope boys was going to Nebraska. Hey, but I don't know how I know that.
But is it true? No, we just keep going. Keep going. Okay. True brilliance is not a function of understanding one view of the world and finding order, logic, and spiritual. Okay, no, let's slow this down. This phrase here. Let me turn this way because this is amazing. I'm gonna hold the mic like we in the, this is Johnny Carson's show, and this is 1975. True brilliance is not a function of understanding one view of the world and finding order, logic, and spirituality in it. Tell me this ain't how most people think. Understanding one's view of the world and finding order. You're just trying to figure out the order of the world, the logic of the world, and the spirituality of it. But true brilliance is understanding that your view of order, logic, spirituality is what's created your world and therefore being forever capable of changing everything. Meaning that those ideas of order, logic, and the world is your beliefs. Mm-hmm. It is not the world itself. Mm-hmm. Once you realize that when you say this, the world, this is what everybody does. Mm-hmm. This is what this is how the world works. This is how racism has always been. That's in your head. And that's why your world's the way it is. Mm-hmm. All of your beliefs, the way the world works, is not the way the world works. The way the world works is just the way you believe it works. And once you realize that, you finally realize you can change the world by just changing your beliefs, not going outside and figuring out how to knock down buildings.
If we don't have customers, then we need to reevaluate, read this paragraph, because we're too consumed in the idea or belief or thought that our world mimics the outside world, not realizing that how we see the world, our logic, our capability, everything that goes, it's just our world. There's a whole world out there that don't give a fuck or know about us. And if we want customers, we got to get to know their world. I got to get to know Shabisha's world. I got to get to know Shakina's world. If I want to design women's athletic gear, I can't do it from a space of what Courtney thinks is dope. Nobody gives a fuck. I have to know. I've sat down with hell of women athletes to learn their world. And guess what? It was completely opposite of the world that I thought I had in my head of what I thought that they want. Because there's so many differences. So if we want customers, if you want to expand your business or brand, understand nobody gives a fuck about your world. You got to jump in the worlds of your customers or potential customers or demographic and really be obsessed with their world.
Listen, your job is to serve customers, right? But somehow y'all think your job is to serve yourself by serving customers. Serving customers, your job is to serve your employees. Some of you guys think that in order to serve your employees, you have to serve yourself to serve your employees. Serving customers and serving employee is a selfless act. That means you're going to have to go through emotions that says, your selfish emotions, your ego's going to kick in and tell you, nah, fuck that. It's all about me today. I'm a diva. I'm fabulous. And you got to tell yourself, yeah, you can be that, but that ain't got shit to do with today. Today, I'm here to serve my customer. That means when you're serving your customer, now what you believe is just the belief that makes you unique. And I bless you for that. That's a beautiful thing. But running a business has nothing to do with being true to yourself, being authentic. Align with your fucking customers. We already talked about this. So when you say you need to upgrade your operating system, it's really your mental model. That's what the operating system. I'm going to keep going next one. Discovery process. And when you decide to come out to Culturescape, and this is something in business, I'm going to kind of hit this. I think I'm going to hit another one later. I'm going to kind of combine 2 points. And when I hit the other one, I just kind of skip past it. In business, you have to broaden your vision. And in that broadening the vision, you also have to broaden your self-awareness. Discovery process is about what process do you go to discover more about yourself? And I say discovery process. How can I improve my love life? How can I improve my parenting? How can I improve my business? Like discovery. Take time to broaden your domain of knowledge. See, the train like what I said. You just want to highlight. That's my Flavor Flav. Sure you're right. To all my fans out there, I hear you. So anyway, so the point is this. I just want to play out those at home can't hear, may not be able to hear.
He said, fuck you.
Entrepreneurs, get on planes. Go discover, read other books outside of business books. Go explore ideas. In the words of Mashama, be curious. Because the more disciplines you develop and the broader your knowledge, the more tools you will have to make better decisions and solve problems. Having narrow lives, getting caught up in the trap of going to work and coming home every day, reading the same books, watching the same TV episodes, is slowly but surely destroying your ability to see yourself. Look, in order to truly see yourself, you have to discover more. If you stay within your emotional comfort of things you like, you're trapping yourself. Practice discovering. Your refresh rate. Refresh rate is every once in a while, refresh everything about yourself. How you dress, the people you hang out with, what you do, how you parent, how you interact with loved ones, what you eat, where you go, your form of entertainment, the way you do business. Everything should have a high refresh rate. Because why? You should always seek to grow and improve. In my household, when I first met this pretty little girl called Shakira, I said, woman, I'm a difficult man. I don't know why you agreed. I'm sure.
I know that speech.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, y'all. We just got lost in our man moment. Sorry, that's a man moment. We forgot we were not spot. We just need some dominoes and anyway. Point is, okay, so, and I said I'm a difficult man. I said I have one basic rule that cannot be broken. The house has to always be progressive. That includes the babies. That's refresh rate. Meaning we're always moving forward. I've seen stale families. I came from a stale family. I remember walking in a house, and my whole family felt like somebody magic came in, like Wanda, the witch came in, and she used her magic power, and everybody's frozen in front of TV like this. And I walked in the house like, ain't nobody gonna move, right? But they was used to just dragging their life forward. And when problems came up, they were so damn predictable, it would make me throw up. I mean, you would watch them make money, get money on the 1st, and be broke by the 15th every month. Their life was so poorly designed because they were never refreshing their life. And you know what they did? You know what they were experts at doing? Sitting around all day long complaining about them and other people and their relationship and what the world's doing to them.
Hey, somebody asked me a couple months ago about what happens if I disagree with Nana up here or in conversation. And I'm like, the dope part about our relationship is that if we disagree, the reason why I stop arguing or going back and forth, because we have such a progressive mind that in 6 months, the shit that we disagreed about, we agree with now. Because either I'm going to find out I'm wrong or he going to find out he wrong, and it'll just be part of our new software. And then he'll be like, so this is what I was thinking. I'll be like, dope. Or I'd be like, oh, this is what I was thinking. Because that's what progression does. That's what refreshing yourself does, is you constantly are reevaluating what you believe, what you think is true, what you got going on, what's working for you, what's not. And if it's not working, you're not holding on to it, not sunken cost. You're just tossing it. And then you're adding it to who you are. And you forget that you disagreed with somebody about it 6 months ago, because that's what progressiveness does. It doesn't, you don't shame yourself for it, because you're that kind of animal. You're always moving, evolving, and you're shedding new skin. And you're like, well, what about, oh, you talking about the skin that I shed 6 months ago? Like, that shit is in the dirt now. I don't give a fuck. I believe this now. And that's what's beautiful about having the courage and confidence to always refresh yourself.
And this is all about, you're now finally discovered about the culturescape. You now realize you could change your beliefs, right? So now that you realize you can change your beliefs, you're in the process, I'm gonna go back a little bit. You're in the process of discovery. You're in the process of upgrading yourself, right? And next, which is important, this is the most important, I think I've never given it this much attention, set points. Let me tell you what I've seen in this class. It's so easy to buy into the idea of leveling. You may think you don't, but it's so everywhere. We're in a corporate culture, so it's the dominant belief. And so let's say in this class, now you can almost teach this class. But you don't create a set point. If I drop beneath this, then I need to ratchet up that. Or I need to intensify my practice. Or I need to focusing in. Or I need to work on my meditation. I need to work on my form of exercise. I need to work on my diet. I need to work on my sleep. I need to work on my self-value, my self-love, right? If you don't create a set point, it's like wearing sweats for 2 years and eating what you want, and you don't even know you gain weight because the sweats just adjusted to that weight gain. Or if you wore those old school jeans that don't stretch at all, you remember when jeans didn't stretch at all? And you put that belt buckle on, you know when you go into the next belt buckle, right? So you know at that point, lower the sugar, lower the intake. I can't begin to tell you because this shit feels so, doesn't feel tangible. Growth doesn't feel tangible when you're going through the experience. If you don't create mental set points as you grow, you could develop an ego that you're growing and you're actually going backwards. That set point is, so as you start to work on this new growth and you start to develop your new beliefs and you start to feel real relaxed and you feel like, oh my God, it seems like everything's starting to work for me. This shit is amazing. I feel like I have freedom and choice and I feel like I move differently. I see when everybody says, oh, you can't go there, I step over that boundary and realize there's nothing there besides people's limited beliefs. And you realize it's a whole bunch of untapped resources that you can be able to exploit. But what you don't realize that if you don't create a set point, everything wants to gravitate back to the means. I mean, that childhood you grew up in is always calling you. Come on back here. Come on. Don't you want to cuss a motherfucker out? Don't you want to eat some of that food from that fucked up restaurant you know you don't like once you eat it? Don't you want to go hang out with that person you know you ain't supposed to be dating? Don't you want to call that partner that makes you laugh all the time that you realize ain't worth 10 cents to a nickel? Don't you want to go do all these things that are irrelevant? Don't you want to just be high tonight?
Man, that's real.
All that shit's calling you. And if you don't have a set point, you'll wake up one day and go, you'll talk to a consultant or talk to a coach and you'll be like, how the fuck I even get here?
Man, that's real shit. And the thing is, it's almost like Alcoholics Anonymous, where they say, I'm always an alcoholic. You can never read yourself out of that shit. You can never meditate yourself away from it. Like it's nothing you can do to break free, like you moved out of the stratosphere to Earth and now you're floating in space. It'll always be the gravity that's there for you. Now you can learn how to jump high and higher and higher, but if you're not practicing, man, and I've been doing this shit since 2007, and if I don't practice 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, all this shit, I will not be recognizable. And that's the realest shit. That's why this is not a destination. It's a constant, never improving, always. This becomes your, I want to say it, but it's your religion in a way, meaning this is your daily practice as an entrepreneur. Or shit, you're going to get drawn back down into the gravity of it, and next thing you know, you'll be back doing the dumb shit you was doing 15 years ago.
If taking what Cord just said, if you don't practice like that, it's a belief getting in front of the practice because you don't realize that an entrepreneur is a different kind of human being. Everybody ain't entrepreneurs. Sorry. Get over it. I'm not here to, it's not a club of like I said, down at Dudley Hall, everybody's welcome. But in the world of entrepreneurs, everybody can't be an entrepreneur, right? And the real thing that's stopping you from being an entrepreneur is your beliefs. If you believe you can't, you can't. If you believe you can, you can. But once you decide you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to move differently in society. And you're not going to be, like, for example, you can tell a football player when he's walking out of a building. Like, if there's 20 people walked out of a room and nobody worked out and a football player walked out, and they say, which of these 20 people are football players? Unless, you're talking about quarterback like Tom Brady. But for the most part, you'll say, oh, I can tell he's a wide receiver. I can tell he's a lineman, right? Because the practice and the lifestyle has reshaped their body. An entrepreneur mind is different than everybody else's because the practice has reshaped their mind to move, function, respond, react, and achieve differently. So in a room, you're going to be awkward. In a room, when you're around your friends, you're going to be the weird one. In a room, sometimes you're going to have to shut the fuck up and let the people have a conversation and only drop a soft nugget and not go too deep into it because in a room, they don't give a fuck because that's not what they're trying to do. Have you ever been around a super athlete and let's say you're not on some athletic shit and they tell you, yes, today I ran 25 miles and then I did about 400 push-ups and then after that I went ahead and did this weightlifting competition. Plus I'm getting ready for this Ironman thing and stuff like
Cassandra.
this. And then while they talking, you thinking, I don't really give a fuck. I don't know why they keep talking about this shit. Can you just play the Big Six? I'm trying to play some goddamn dominoes, right? But the thing is, because you're irrelevant to me. I'm over here trying to eat this sandwich and play some dominoes and whoop your ass, and you tell me about this Iron Man shit, right? And you intimidate me because the shit sounds frightening. And if I feel bad about my gut, I'm feeling like you need to shut the fuck up because my gut telling me I look uglier than you. I don't want to hear your old bragging ass because I got envy problems. You kind of get where I'm going with this? You're in a different realm. And in that different realm, you don't get to stay there if you don't practice to be there. You're not invited into this realm with no cost to pay. You have to pay an emotional cost. You got to pay an attention cost and a time cost. Of course, we know a money cost. So I really want to hit that point. Woo, doo-doo trap. Doo-doo trap. Doo-doo trap. I just wanted to say that, Doo-doo Brown. Anyway, some of y'all too young to know who Doo-doo Brown is, and the whole song is just whole different world, whole different world.
I don't even know.
They don't even dance like that no more. That's a little bit too much popping. You fuck around, mess up your hip. Don't do it, those of y'all who grew up in that age. We cannot do those dances anymore. So, Doo-doo trap. Why did Daniel turn into Doo-doo trap? It's do and do and do and do and do, not doo-doo trap. But Danielle, of course, gonna call it doo-doo trap, and it's gonna make it this fucking joke. That's why I hate you, Danielle, and I love you at the same time. Let me say this real quick on doo-doo trap. You want to take this one first?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take this because I got caught up in it. And what I understand is there's a line, we preach a lot about doing, right? Don't sit here and read the books and be all intellectual and don't do shit. But then there's also the other side of that curve.
Ooh, come on with it.
That if you can get consumed and trapped in the doing, that you can't step out and observe the macro and realize that you're running your business instead of being in it. So the misconception in our world growing up is that hard work pays off. Hard work, work hard. I bust my ass.
Come on now.
I work harder I got to work 3 times harder than the white man to get ahead, all this shit.
Come on
that's embedded in my soul. Like that's embedded in me. I'm a hustler like a motherfucker. Like I can outwork anybody. That's my story. That's my belief. So when shit gets stressful or times get stressful, I revert to what? Because what's easy for me? Doing. So I get caught up in the doing. Next thing you know, months, a year go by, and you've been doing so much. When did I have time to really strategize? Or your saw gets so dull.
Come on, that's the part.
Your saw gets so dull that you call yourself, I will call myself working 12, 13 hours a day, but I only do like 3 hours of really sawing because my saw was so dull.
Come on now. Y'all ain't hearing them. Come on.
That's the doo-doo trap. And so then my mind, over time, my body decides to say, Court, yo, I don't know what the fuck you doing, but we out. I'm going to check the fuck out because you didn't, we know you a crazy motherfucker, but you really pushed us to the edge and we done. So that's what happens. And so us as entrepreneurs got to understand that hard work is a piece, but it's a small piece if we're strategizing. And we had to talk about that today. If being a soldier, the general, the president, is different variables in there. And so if the president decides he wants to go out there and fight with the soldiers, that's dangerous. That's an old model. That model used to work. Julius Caesar would go out there and fight. Genghis Khan would go out there and fight. But if the leader gets his head chopped off, it's over for you. It's over. So they've learned over time to sit in the back in the room in the tent with the map and the fake warriors and sit with his crew and strategize the next move, no matter how tight or how thin the army gets, how thin the rations get, how hungry the soldiers are, how outworked they are. If you're not in a position where you're strategizing for them, you don't do them any service by jumping there and fighting in a war with them. So it's an easy trap to get into if you're a hard worker, if you were exceptional in the corporate world, if you were an athlete, or you just a straight hustler, to default to that mindset. But really, it's a fucking trap.
Let me say this. When you get to a point if you're working on a business project, even in your jobs, those of you who still have jobs, and you feel that energy, you guys know what I'm talking about, that energy where you feel like you just can't catch time. You're just running behind. You're rushing really, really hard. If I was to walk up to you at that very exact moment and say, hey, stop and strategize, your natural response is, I don't have time to strategize. That's the most important time to strategize. Because instead of you doing 10%, instead of you doing 100% of effort to get 10% of a response, what about if you did 10% effort to get 100% response? The way you flip that ratio. How do you flip that ratio? Is by improving your strategy, by sharpening your sword. If you are sharpening your saw, right? Where we go wrong is we have a lot of poor mental models, poor strategies that we're subsidizing by extra work. So we're moving harder, not smarter, and the only person who pays the cost is your physical body, heart attack, stress breakdown, relationship loss of your children relationship, loss of life itself. If you ever see me, so there was a morning, I think I talked about this before, but just in case I didn't, I just revised. Somebody called me one day at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. They said, and I said, yo, they said, what's up, man? We're going to talk to you about some business stuff. I said, oh, shit, I just woke up. What's up? And the person said, you just woke up? I sure wish I had that entrepreneur life. And when they said, I wish I had an entrepreneur life, I said, you obviously don't understand the challenges of an entrepreneur. It is critical. Damn, that train is loud as one of these movies.
Oh, that's for you. That's
hey, man, somebody need to train that dude. Anyway, put this. So the person said, wow, you sure do work up at 11. And then he says, and then you take these bike rides in the middle of the day sometime for 2 hours. I said, yeah, twice a week I do that. I said, wait, what? I said, okay, in a job, quite often you don't have as much work as you're assigned to because the needs in businesses are always shifting. So some days they need you to work hard. Some weeks you don't work hard. So what has become a tradition in corporate America is in order for me to state my value, I need to always look like I'm working hard. But you don't realize that when you're working hard, somebody's already managing you, managing strategy, handling accounting, paying bills, driving marketing, driving research, handling management, handling technical side, handling relationship building, having meetings, right? And so a lot of times we are functioning as cogs fighting for importance. When you become an entrepreneur, if I'm on every phone call and every meeting, who's getting the work done? If I don't set boundaries, I don't have a business, you controlling me. And when I set boundaries, I create space and time for me and Mashama and the crew, Shabisha, James, Marquita, Irk, Danielle, for us to stop sometimes like, hey, let's think about how we want to move forward. How's the time customers? Well, it has to be done by next week. First of all, you probably made that shit up in your head. Mm-hmm. That's 99% of the time that happens all the time. If I just digest that, and this is where the doo-doo track comes in, I automatically take that as a badge. Well, we can get it done that fast. Dun-da-da-da. Not realizing I'm about to do the job the same way I did the last job because I didn't get a time, I didn't have an opportunity to process the job itself. 2, I didn't create systems and smart moves. I didn't look at opportunities to say, if I outsource this, it's going to cost me this, but I can actually make this back and I save this much time. So I'm not even moving in a smart way. I'm moving in this aggressive way because guess what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to validate myself and prove myself. What you have to do is learn to set boundaries, brakes, and accelerator. Learn to use boundaries, brakes, and accelerators. 2, When you receive a new project or you sit down on a new project, learn to slow down the start and make the finish aggressive. What you don't want to do is accelerate into the project and find that you're spending more time fixing shit you broke than completing the actual project itself. Or, other thing, you moving so fast and so quick, you're moving with assumptions, assuming that everybody know what you're talking about. Guess what you're dismissing? You're dismissing clarity. Number one job of a successful business is maintaining clarity. In order to have clarity, you have to take the necessary slow down moves to make sure that you know what we're about to do, right? You know what's expected of you. This is a timeline. These are dates. Let's discuss this. Where are the possible holes in this? Okay, wait a minute. Why are we still doing it this way? Wait a minute. There's new technology. Why don't we use these tools? Somebody called me today and say, no, who do you know hosts websites and who can maintain a website for us? Why the fuck would you want to host a website in 2021? There's all these beautiful websites that are for $20 a month that host itself, and they maintain it for you themselves, and upgrade is easy as shit. And the average customer can't tell whether it came from Squarespace, HTML5, or WordPress, right? But if you're not sitting, this is a mature company. The CEO says, "Who do you know that does that?"
It's 1990.
So he's going to use that dumbass model that's hell expensive to move really, really quick because we have a short timeline, as opposed to, hey guys, let's have a discussion. Let's think about what's the best strategy to approach this. I can't begin. The doo-doo trap is so cold that you can be working your ass to death as you lose your business.
Straight up.
You are busy as fuck and your bank account is deteriorating. If your numbers are moving slow, getting busy is not going to solve it. If your numbers are growing really, really fast, getting busy is not going to solve it. Neither one justifies it. Let's say business starts to speed up right away tomorrow. Okay, then systematize those new roles and get the fuck out of those roles. Because somebody needs to drive the ship. Someone needs to drive the strategy. Someone needs to be examining the strategy. Like, for example, your goal is not to do the work every day. Your goal is to look like, okay, when you first start, you do the work. The first week you do the work. But instantly start telling yourself, I need to start outsourcing I need to define this role so clear I can pass it to court, orientating him in this, and within 2 weeks to a month, he can do this job. Right? And that means that when you get busy, you automatically ready to plug people into their roles. If you're struggling, you don't get in there and start working harder. You figure out ways to get the same job done so you can still work on relationships and unplugging the dam so you can actually get things flowing again. Otherwise, you'll be working really, really hard, and the pond's getting smaller, smaller, and smaller, and smaller, and you out there fishing in the cold-ass air, only catching one fish at a time now.
Hey, can I tell you how much game this is too? So this is another conversation we had when we first met about my brand, CoreSmith. Okay, well, who's the designer? Me. Well, why are you the designer? Because I'm dope. Shit. All this experience I have at becoming a designer, I'm raw as fuck. Yeah, well, you need to replace that role. I can't find nobody as dope as me. All right. That's how you're gonna be limited, right? Even challenging that made me evaluate it. Like, yeah, shit, I can't grow like that. Fuck that shit. Maybe I can. And you know what? Shit, there's people that's doper than me. That's better than me as designers. So I hired a designer, hired him up. He took 80% of my job from me. Now I got more time to work on the other shit. So even in my own ego, like, but the 20 can't nobody fuck with me though. Nah, you know what? There's people out there that's better. It's just being able to find them and them wanting to be a part of this. So that's a huge part of your growth as an entrepreneur is you in your ego thinking that God gave you this gift or this thing that you can do, that perfection mindset that you have, that I got to do it all myself because can't nobody, and if I want to get something done right, I got to do it myself. All those things are limiting stories that will keep your company like this. And you won't understand how it's not growing.
And the cool thing is this. Your job is not to go out and find another version of you. Your job is to go out and make another version of you. Let me say this again. If you really understand your role, you should be able to make it. If you don't understand your role, you're just trying to find it. I saw it today. I was working with somebody today, this week. I said, look, I can help you with your business, but ultimately, you're in charge of your business. I don't make your decisions, you do. If you let somebody from the outside come in and make decisions of your business, you're allowing me to hijack your business. And here's the problem. Why am I hijacking your business? I'm only been in your business 10, 15 hours. You've been in your business thousands of hours. How are you going to let somebody from the outside make those decisions? Number two, you still got to own my role. You got to design my role. Because if you don't design my role, how do you know if I'm lying to you? How do you know if I'm not manipulating you? This is one of the biggest flaws when we hire consultants. You want to hire consultants so something can go away because you don't want to face it. You know, I'm not good at writing, so I'm going to hire a writing consultant. Just come on in and hire them. And then you don't realize they're writing like shit because you don't own writing. I'm not saying you have to write, but you have to be aware of what is good writing so you know what the fuck to hire, to at least be evaluated. Is this person providing a service for you? Otherwise, as you pay, you send this to them, and all of a sudden, 6 months on the road, your biggest client be like, you know, your writing fucking sucks. We can't work with you anymore. Don't go fussing and cussing at that person. Give them that last paycheck and go talk to yourself and say, come on, I got to get past that mental hurdle, what I can't, that limiting belief.
That's real shit. That was me with finances. I hired a whole finance group. They work running, bumping into each other. So I'm paying 3 people for a year to bump into each other. And so when an outside entity asks me for a specific type of report, forecast, I'm like, yeah, y'all should knock that shit out. Nothing. We need more time. I'm like, we're not no $20 million company. We're not a $1 billion company. We need more time for. It's QuickBooks. But because I didn't have a knowledge of QuickBooks or how any of that shit worked, I had to trust them on their word. So eventually I got smart enough to be like, all y'all motherfuckers fired. And I'm gonna learn enough to where nobody can bullshit me.
You have to take time. Learning enough doesn't mean you own the process. It's you gotta own the department or own the value of the department to you. Otherwise, you can make that shit up in your head. Last point, and we're gonna close on this. Awareness. We talked about discovery, and we kind of tied awareness. But let me just tap this really quick. Awareness needs to be not only external but internal. You have to grow. This whole business thing that we're teaching in this class, a lot of this stuff is built around awareness. Awareness is at the core of a lot of the things we're trying to bring to your attention. A lot of times, your brain doesn't have the capabilities of being aware of a lot of things that's happening because that's what your brain is designed to do. Shut out anything that's noise or anything I don't have time for. But in this business stuff, you got to not only be aware of yourself, aware of your clients, aware of your employees, aware of trends, aware of new ideas, aware of things that don't even matter to you. When I say awareness, you got to be a little bit more present. This is why the storytelling, like lowering this is really tapping into the area of separating narratives from optionality. Let me tell you a tool I use. So the best way to control a narrative is tell another narrative. However, when you're listening to people, learn to listen through optionality. Meaning that, I'm going to tell you now, I won't say it to your face. When you tell me a story, I hear your story, but my brain says, fuck your story. What options did you just tell me? That's exactly how I listen to you. My mama died, ran over a kid, killed a dog, and nobody died, and everybody in the town died. Fuck your story. What options are you telling me? Let me tell you why. Somebody told me a story the other day that had a whole bunch of logical fallacies. And I literally said, hey, your stories are flawed. What do you mean they're flawed? If I took your story and used our relationship trust to adopt your story, I allow the person to manipulate you, now manipulated me. And now you have manipulation contagion. The way I stop the manipulation is I go, your story's flawed. Somebody told me, no, I want you to speak to a group of people. They make over $1 million a year, and I need you to teach them about basic marketing about why they need to have business cards. pimp, somebody needs to be transparent. Quit fucking lying to me. You fucking around. If you made $1 million, you built that much trust, because $1 million requires a certain level of trust, right? If you make $1 million a year and you don't believe that you need to have business cards, either you want me to be your prostitute in this situation, or you gunning for me. But this shit it don't make no fucking sense, right? What I'm trying to say is that I don't care about all the sweetness and emotional cues that people pull on and they tell stories. That's just powerful in this country. People love to tell these especially social justice people are the greatest at it. You want me to die? To go to the corner store? Get your ass in the corner store, put a fucking mask on, quit playing. Hear that shit from you? Right? It's like the shit we can come up with can be so motherfucking powerful. And you'll be surprised how it will trap you. But what helps you get past just you being stern or aggressive, as you build your domain awareness, meaning you learn all these different domains of knowledge, somebody can say something to you, be like, when you want to ask that question, is it true? You can look at other domains and do comparisons and go, yeah, it feels right, but that's not true. Mm-hmm. But if you have a very narrow domain of study, you're so pimpish. I can pimp the shit out of you. The shit out of you. Many of you guys have joined Landmark or what's that, Herbalife and Umar Johnson's and other popular fucking movements that come along that y'all realize it's got holes at the bottom of the ship. But the reason they got you because you wasn't aware. You have to practice awareness. That means to practice awareness, you're not going around looking for confirmations. You're going around just being curious. You're hanging around people that challenges your curiosity. Awareness, like if you're not even aware of your actions, you could think, I've seen people go, man, I have a partner in East Oakland. Man, it's hard for me to hire people. It's like I have to fire people all the time. They didn't send out an alarm that something's going on with you? All those people that you don't see the common denominator?
Nope, they fault.
Awareness says, oh shit, if I lost that many people and I'm the only person here, so your norm is flawed. That means when you change, it's going to be uncomfortable. So stop looking for comfortable solutions. Stop reading the Ayanna Van Zandt books about just change. That shit ain't what you're looking for. That the feel ain't deep enough. Right? And so that's what I'm saying. Awareness, like understanding, like even understanding this emotional cost of these moves you're making. Awareness. Awareness that if I move this, what does it do to the court? What if I change my space, what in space impact did it have on him? You remember Mama said, close the goddamn screen door? Awareness, if I left the door open, what does that mean? What is the long-term impact of all my decisions? Awareness. Now, I felt like this, so I did this, so I was happy. Awareness. Let's say I'm sitting here smoking a joint in Atlanta, in a strip club, my finest drink, my wife next to me, going like this, and I'm happy. I can't stay there. Why? Because awareness says that that's temporary. And actually, that will deflate you over time. Long-term happiness says that tomorrow I got to go up and go help my brothers and sisters out. Tomorrow I got to go build something. Tomorrow I got to go change something. Tomorrow I got to invest in my kids. Tomorrow I got to invest in my wife. Tomorrow I got to work on the house. Because that's long-term awareness of what is happiness. Happiness is understanding how the world works, not being a decade child. What did Tupac say? Tupac was a thug. I don't know what the fuck I need to listen to him for, unless I need to deal with some thug shit. But you at Cal Berkeley studying Tupac. And then you go to IBM and say, can I get a job? I don't understand what the fuck happened. Awareness. I'm not saying that, I'm not demonizing Tupac to say you can't study him. What I'm suggesting is that Tupac was the hottest form of knowledge at one point that Cal Berkeley made him a class after he died. Tupac died doing some Crip shit. He didn't die that shit. He didn't die giving a speech about free my people, pop, 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 pop. He wasn't Fred Hampton and shit. But the trend of that time, he was a conductor. Let's say you on some Kim Kardashian shit. You heard what Kim Kardashian said? She's hot. Tekashi 6ix9ine said, that's hot for this era. Maybe going back another era, it'd be some, I don't know, shit, Bobby Brown before he smoked out. I don't know what the fuck's saying. Somebody. There's decade knowledge. Everybody knows that every 10 years there's something that people think is the prime knowledge, that people emotionally protected. They emotionally, let me say this again, you're emotionally protected. At some point, you have to grow awareness and realize, oh, this is a trend.
Man, I was just about to jump on that. Awareness also is observation of patterns. Observation of all kind of patterns. Patterns that include the newest money shit. So if there's a new wave of money shit for black folks, and now it's stocks and bonds and bitcoins, and now all of a sudden everybody's an expert in stocks in 3 weeks, and it's so exciting that and you're so consumed and unaware that you jump on that shit. Come on, because 10 years ago it was something else, and it was real estate another time, and it was something else another time, then it was MLM another time. And so if you're consumed by those waves, that means there's a lack of awareness. Let me back up. Or same with all kind of shit. Fads, trends, waves, patterns, different sorts of momentum. Awareness allows you to stand still in certain situations. Man, look, everybody start popping Molly and popping E-pills and popping, look, I'm not fucking with that shit. Oh, and then they say, oh, studies show Molly got a little bit of meth in it. Oh, shit. Guess what? You got caught up in that wave because that was a party thing. Next thing you know, your body's fucked up. So be careful. If you are aware, then you can look at the long and short-term effects of everything around you, and you can look at the patterns. And if you are around other people who have their own skill set and their own set of awareness, then now you can form a super group, because people be like, hey, watch out, Court, watch out. What? I didn't even see that. But you got that superpower that I don't have? Cool. And I may have something that you don't have. We had conversation today, and I was like, fuck. Scratching my head, because I'm like, damn, that's real. I know that shit, but I've just completely forgot it. Like, imagine having 5 people around you like that. With different subsets of awareness around you, it's hard to lose. Hey, what you think about the new Bitcoin wave? You bought some Bitcoin yet, Nana? The fuck you talking about? Oh yeah, never mind. You know what I'm saying? Because that group don't play that shit. I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody in my circle, if I say the word Bitcoin or all them new stock shit that everybody, they would laugh at me, maybe kick me off the team. So understanding awareness is also with patterns.
I mean, awareness is how you pay attention to when you're talking. Try to become that ghost that's observing your conversation and judge your conversation. If you're not aware, I've seen people, okay, so my wife doesn't dual task very well at all. Not at all. Amazing person, but that's one of the few flaws she has, of the very few she have. And so if somebody calls her and she's cooking and Zinga's in the room, I tell her, stop one. Don't do all 3, because somebody's about to get mistreated really bad. And if my food and my daughter's in inclusion, those 2 are at high risk. And what I found is that I've seen her do this before, and she's not even aware, where something will happen and she will respond, but she won't give it the right emotional cue, and the person gets offended, but she didn't see it because she wasn't even aware of the moment, because she was split, her awareness was split so broad. And so then that person leaves the house and they kind of have a little friction undertone to her, and she doesn't even know that's even a thing because she just wasn't aware. When you don't even have awareness, you could be sabotaging relationships, money, opportunities, potentials, offers. Somebody can come to you and be like, hey, Shabisha, what do you think about this? You'd be like, yeah, whatever, that shit cool. Anyway, so I was with my girlfriend, they'd be like, oh, okay. Well, Lil McNeil, what do you think? She's like, and McNeil was like, well, I actually thought about that. And like, hey, I got this offer for a couple $100,000. You interested? She's like, well, shit, yeah. Now, Shabisha could be more talented. Shabisha could be more invested. Shabisha could do all the work that's necessary. But she didn't have the awareness of how she was showing up at that moment. Right? I mean, when I first started teaching this class, I said, when you leave the house, realize as an entrepreneur, you're a politician. You're politicking at all times. You don't get to leave your house and be shitty. You don't get to leave your house and be at the supermarket. Man, fuck you. Who the fuck you think you're talking about? No, I run 510 Media. And, no, it doesn't translate. Because I don't know who these people are, and I'm aware enough to say, hey, how I show up in public always matters. So I take the high road every chance I get. I don't take the low road. Right? Awareness, when you love somebody, you tunnel. So, if I have a problem with Shakira, my children, Mashama, Court, 510 Media family, I know if I really have a deep problem with them, I have to go to another family member. Melanie's like my little sister. If I have a problem with her, I'm gonna have to go to another family member. Why? Because I have too much. My love destroys my awareness.
Hey, you know where I don't sell team uniforms in? The city of Vallejo. You know why? Because my son was playing AAU, 17. He's 17, 18. I'm a protective dad. He gets into a scuffle during a game. Where he got into the scuffle was on the opposite team's bench. So when he pushed the kid who pushed him, the whole team kind of encircled him. And the coaches were kind of egging it on anyway. So all I just saw was dad. So I ran up in there throwing kids, coaches, whoever out the motherfucking way. Like, y'all gonna get this work. And so everybody was like, ain't that Court Smith?
You gotta let us do.
So the people running the tournament were like looking at me like, dude, what is wrong with you? And so I after I came down and I saw my son was safe, it was like nobody said anything, nobody called the police, but just that city, nobody fucks with me. And that's 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So you can never turn it off, never, because that's money I lose every year. It's money I lose every year. And hopefully time will permit where they'll forget. But
Hey, y'all, I think that's the best story to end the night on. I think anything we say after that, there's no match for that shit. That's the greatest story ever. Yo, y'all have a good night. See y'all later. Peace out. Oh, wait. Did you, before you announce anything, before we go? Oh, it's too late. Oh, well, okay, tell you what.
Yeah.